I need to rewrite every script in the game first.
Someone else in the server. If you're alone in a multiplayer server, it did not manifest at all. And we tore our hair out for how long?
Yeah, probably a good like 3-4 days.
Yeah, 3 or 4 days, just spinning our wheels, trying everything to figure out what could possibly be the cause of any of this. And it turned out to be how the crew system was syncing to clients in such a way that it would like send you the state of all the crew in your tank about 15 times a second, which wasn't a problem in terms of what you might think, like, oh, it's a big bandwidth spamming thing. No, it's just like a couple of integers. It's nothing because of how the system is designed, and it's all very deterministic and it's nice. But the way the timing worked out is the server would send, okay, this tank is dead, you are dead, all the crew are dead, but the last crew state update would still be in the air being sent to you. So you, the player, would be told, congratulations, you have died and you're alive now. So all of your modules would explode and all of your crew would be alive and you'd be stuck in the zombie state. And we just couldn't do anything for like 3 or 4 days in that critical period. And we finally got it fixed and kind of kicked it out the door just so we could get things moving. And ran into a lot of issues with the siege mode, and that was pretty brutal. The armor hole system worked out pretty good. There was a few exploits that some of you have found. That'll be getting fixed here in a bit, but it's mostly just been nose to grindstone, fixing bugs, trying to keep up with making sure the game is still functional as best as we can.
We also took a big nosedive on like optimizations as well.
Yeah.
Performance. So that was a lot of time spent trying to figure that out.
Yeah, there was some pretty brutal things that we ran into in terms of optimization. One of which was the clients were calculating the vision to the everything else from the perspective of the TAC units when they really should have been. Obviously, the server is the only one that should be doing that, but because of just a small oversight, things like that happened. Can we have more optimizations? Always. We're always working on that, especially for lower end clients and so on. And it's gotten quite a bit better, even if you feel that, oh, this game could be more optimal. It is running at 60 most of the time, and the server runs most of the time at high 50s, high 60s, and we're targeting 60 locked. So we're getting a lot closer than we were before for sure. Let's see what else. The oncoming balance changes will probably be breaking for some people's vehicles if you're relying on armor holes to do like very large armor arrays. Like that's not going to change. You'll still be able to make that exact same thing that you used to, but there was a bit of an oversight in how the cost calculation of the armor holes was done. That essentially evolved the ratio from the surface area to the volume was being converted into the mass and cost of the armor hole. Now, if you're using it as a mantlet or like the roof of your turret and there's like a hole cut in it or stuff like that, then none of that's really going to change for you very much. But if you're doing stuff like a big, thick, meaty wedge and then a really long, thin, like 4mm thick sheet, that resulted in a few interesting exploits that allowed you to have a lot more armor than you really should have had for like a lot lower cost at a lot lower weight and so on and so on and so on. So if you are quote unquote abusing it, then you're probably going to find that you're going to have a bad time. If you're using armor holes like quite a bit, you might find that you're suddenly over the LC cap by like 30, 40, 50, 100. And for that, I apologize. But I've done my very best to make it.
There's gonna be a lot of other balance changes that are gonna,
Yeah.
that's so what we're gonna, so moving forward, I should, so for all the new people coming in, this was announced in the last Steam post, but we're switching to a continuous playtest model, which basically means we won't have the big breaks anymore between playtests, and we'll keep access open. So like for anybody new coming in who wants to try the game, you can just request access and it should let you in right away. And so, but the nice thing about the playtest, like having the big official playtest, was you can reasonably expect each playtest is you're gonna have a big balance change and all your builds are gonna like not break, like you can't upload them or you can't load them anymore, but like, they're gonna be a different class or over the weight limit now or what, like, those kind of things. You have to go in and tweak them. So it was nice to like structure them. So moving forward, we're gonna have, so because it's a continuous playtest, we're always gonna be pushing updates out and patches and whatnot. We will notify and like we'll notify players. We'll have like a kind of what we did with the last announcement. We'll have these named updates, like playtest 3.5, playtest 4, and these major version changes will be, you can expect large balance changes, and therefore your builds are probably going to need to get updated. And it will also reflect in the like the workshop page. You'll see like that number increase. But and we'll try to defer any balance changes, like major balance changes, game breaking balance changes, or vehicle breaking, to those major updates. And those, might be spaced out. They might not. But the idea is we're not going to have like, we're not going to do the thing where every other patch we like do a balance change that completely breaks all your designs.
Like if you build a tank on Monday and you come back on Wednesday and now you can't use it anymore,
Yeah.
that's something that we'd like to avoid. So only like bug fixes, like, hey, this is causing a crash. Hey,
Yeah.
the system just doesn't work. Like I can't use the full effort restocking. Like that kind of stuff is going to be pushed out as soon as it's done.
All right, Steric, reduce crew interaction range by 0.25 meters again.
Yeah. And then so that way we can structure everything around those bigger but really at least internally to us, those number changes don't really change anything as far as like, it's just, this is the point we're deciding we're going to push a bunch of balance updates all at once. So if the balance is potentially, if there's a lot of things that are broken with the balance or whatever, we might have to wait, that cycle, whether it be a month or whatever, before you get the next like major version, balance version update. But if there's like small fixes and stuff, like I said, exploits and stuff we may fix. If it's like not super destructive, we'll push those whenever. But so like for example, for 3.5, there's like the armor class changes for plates. There's like damage changes for a lot of the guns. There's
Gonna have a shipping cost.
Yeah, you're gonna have the shipping costs. You're gonna have the commander stuff. So
there's going to be some changes to the inaccuracy of weapons has been set to 0 for the entirety of playtest 3 so far because of my personal fixation and interest on, was the previous issues with, hey, I fire at a tank and it hits a football field to the left, was that the gun on my screen being desynced, or was that some other system having a problem? And as far as I could tell, because I haven't actually gotten to play very much, it seems to have been related to how inaccuracy was being applied before, where it wasn't very robust. So I have been working on making that much more robust, and the intention is not to go back to the old system of like you try to fire at something and you're not perfectly aimed and sitting at them, staring at them, and you might hit like a football field to the left or right. The idea is if you have a relatively light weapon, such as a 47 millimeter cannon, and it's on a relatively robust mount, and you have a crew that is not, 20% ergo and no coordination, whatever. If it's set up in such a way that makes sense, you should have a very good experience without a lot of dispersion at all. If you have a 122 millimeter hooked up on a breadstick that is flopping all over the place, you're probably not going to hit the inside of a barn from the inside. The intention is to make the double gun builds with like the big HE loppers a little bit less effective in the sense of they're just not objectively the best because they're not converging both of those cannons onto a single target. There is actually some cost to having these double guns. The intention is not to completely make them worthless, because we do want, for example, like twin 20 mil guns not to be worthless. So this is only going to apply in cases where they are heavy guns in poor ergo and you are trying to fire them on the move in fast mobile situations. That is the target for that kind of balance change. And there's a lot more stuff like that that we are trying to be ginger about, but there is going to be some breaking changes here and there.
Yep.
Has they said anything about increasing the cost of armor so that it takes up more of the budget? The question and answer section will be coming up shortly, but for that specific thing, because it is on the topic that we're on right now, the armor holes are definitely going to be going up in cost, not because I have just cranked the cost dial. It was a bit of an exploit on how their cost was being calculated, because this is a new system and there was a mistake made in the algorithm and it was my fault. I'm sorry, but they will be getting more expensive just on the basis of they will have more or less parity with the current 3D RHA. So if you build the same shape out of multiple shapes of armor, it should come out to the same cost. And I've actually made a change. Some of you might have noticed it, some might have not, but if you select multiple modules now, it actually sums their costs and common stats together. That's been expanded on the local branch here that will be getting pushed out with the next big update. So say you have like 5 pieces of RHA and you shift select all of them, it'll say, yeah, here's 5 of them, and it'll show you like how much structural weight there are, how much material weight, and like it just sums them all together, so it's easier to tell. Yeah, kick-ass Kyle showing it off there. Will we see a weight rebalance? Let's see.
I don't think we're doing a weight rebalance for the drivetrain yet.
There is in the works a pretty large drivetrain change coming on the horizon, and there will be a shorter term change to how the drivetrain is set up and works. The actual effective mass of the drivetrain parts won't be changing in the short term. I do agree, some of them are comically overweight. They are making up for some of the things that aren't in your tank, some of the things that aren't quite all there.
Yeah, we're still missing a couple like major modules. They're kind of help offsetting that a little bit. As far as armor costs, we're going to be trying, like, armor will probably get a small price increase, but what we're going to be trying instead, I don't really like, is we're going to try to make the weight of it a bit more like of a factor. Like, instead of making it just twice as expensive, we're going to make it potentially a little bit heavier to offset that. So like it pushes some of the cost into like your drivetrain parts and stuff, instead of just hyperinflating the LC of the armor. But so we're gonna make some changes on the structural mass specifically, not necessarily the material mass itself, but we'll see.
Will we get slightly better tonnage then? So on that point, I will get
train.
I will get into this as we go on. But the major thing I have to really clarify here about the drivetrain is most of its brain and its guts is 5 to 6 years old. And 5 to 6 years ago, we had a lot different issues to worry about. So it was gotten into a state where it was functional. It, things could drive around, and that was it. We kicked it out the door and we moved on to things that were breaking, such as everything else. And this left a few big holes open. The tonnage system, and it is a distinct system, directly nerfs your drivetrain when parts of the suspension are lifted off the ground. So say, for example, you try to drive over those walls and test drive, you might notice that your vehicle just kind of gives up, like, I don't want to. But it should, you think, might be able to get over that because of the amount of traction that tracks have and so on. That was a bit of a compromise on just making it possible to not have super heavies around everywhere without just collapsing the suspension outright. Like, we've tried a bunch of things to get around this, but the major one was we had to ensure that the supported mass of your vehicle was something that we could balance. And if you just had tonnage added when you put things on, what people did back then is that they just put wheels on the inside of their vehicle, lifted off the ground. There, I have more tonnage. So what will be changing with the the drivetrain and traction system is that it will be getting an overhaul in such a way that the traction itself, the flotation and everything around that will actually matter. Because right now, believe it or not, it is not possible to break traction. It is always in contact with the ground and engaged. Oh, but I'm slipping sometime. That's faked. It's all faked. The problem with that is that in order to actually have these traction effects, you need to be able to break traction, such as slipping and so on. So this one increases the tonnage limit? No. The only thing that matters for the tonnage limit is what's touching the ground. Like it will tell you in the bottom left, oh yeah, you have XYZ tonnage, but you can go into battle with massively over tonnage or whatever, because there is no ground contact simulation in the builder, because notably you could just make it float in the air. So you get 1 day of vehicle air hockey as a little sandbox mode, whatever. Decorative road wheels. Didn't we have a spare wheel decor piece?
Yeah.
Somewhere. I believe the intention with that at one point in time was to essentially allow you to, like, if you get a wheel blown off, just do like a quick repair and like consume that one wheel and keep driving as like I guess like World of Tanks with its like repair kits where you can just immediately go again, but you have a limited number.
What I'm going to be doing instead, just for expediency, so we can get like spare wheels and stuff in the game, is just they have an amount of like supplies that they bring, like a fixed amount.
Yeah.
And there you go. So they can get consumed, but they just work like the supply bins basically.
Yeah. So the spare tracks would be a spare track shaped bin.
Yep. And then they
not quite
when they're
simulator tier,
consumed.
but they vanish when they're consumed and so on. But it'll be something.
Just some.
But anyway, the overall intention with the oncoming drivetrain changes is to remove the concept of tonnage as it currently exists.
Yeah.
You will see a tonnage number still, but this will be a lot closer to the expected flotation and performance of the drivetrain as expressed by something. Ground pressure, power to weight, stuff like that, like as expressed by a unified number that will tell you generally what you can expect out of the vehicle, like a simulated top speed, simulated acceleration, like all these things where you just like how you click on the cost of your vehicle right now and you get like a graph of things. It'd be kind of a bit like that, like what's your acceleration, what's your top speed, what's your turning performance, stuff like that. Like I can actually calculate those things if I have more rationalization inside how everything is being calculated in a unified place, which currently does not exist as it is implemented, but I have tested a prototype system and it does work. Real nerd shit, yes, that's right. No, I'm just talking about the stuff that I really want to talk about. The
cool
issue with the transmissions that I'm sure all of you have experienced with the gear thrashing, it's called, where it goes, oh, I want to be in first gear. Oh, I want to be second gear. Oh, I'm in third gear. Oh, I'm in first gear. Blah, blah, blah. And it just can't make up its mind. And okay, just make it a manual transmission then, some of you might say. Just give us a manual gear ratio. And you know what? You will get those things. It's just, right at the moment, if we gave you a manual gear ratio, you would be able to completely break the system over your knee, and it would not be that hard. So it needs to be ruggedized and rationalized in a way that will actually result in good outcomes rather than really broken outcomes.
Yeah, because like just switching it to like, oh, just make everything a manual. It just basically Band-Aid fix, and then we never get to it.
Yeah. Like in my mind, the best possible solution would be a toggleable manumatic, where if you just start the game up and you load a vehicle and you press W, then things happen and you go and it shifts into gear. But you as a player go, oh, I think second gear would be the best thing for my vehicle to be in right now. And you hit the manumatic toggle and you go second gear on the selector. Maybe it's on Q and E. Maybe you set up your own bindings. Who cares? And it just does its best to keep it in that gear. And if it's going to stall, then it gears down and then gears it back up again. But it tries to keep it into that. That would also allow you to pick a speed, for example. One of the other issues that I would like to fix in the near to long term is the fuel consumption, where right now it's based on load and RPM of the engine with some multipliers here and there. But because of how the driving works in the game, you're basically always at full throttle and always at max RPM or going up and all over the place with maximum load. So you're guzzling fuel pretty quick, even compared to what we're kind of intending. The intention is to have an egg timer of doom, but not quite that fast.
Unless you're a multi-engine vehicle.
Yeah, if you have multiple like V12s on a 80-ton tank, then 3 liters a second might actually be good fuel economy. Just behind throttle to mouse wheel. Yeah, so the problem with changing your throttle right now is if you are anything but 100%, you are getting double screwed, where the first level of getting screwed is the drivetrain itself constantly nerfing itself through various ways in order to combat various exploits that have been discovered and then fixed in the past. And then you're also just not getting that much speed. So instead of having like 90% of your speed or 50% of your speed or whatever throttle is set, you're going to get closer to like 60 to 20% of your speed. It's going to be a lot less than what we would intend for such a thing. So having a dedicated like cruise control function, which is what I want for like, I want to be at some speed, and maybe this could be a configurable setting. Maybe this is automatic, who cares? And that'll let you maybe conserve fuel that way. There's a lot of latitude to that system to make changes to it without it being overly complex. Just adding like little nice things, like maybe I don't want to go at full speed. Maybe I want to go at half, and I just don't want to hold down the keys. That's fine. So that'll be the intention for that system in the future. We'll get to it. The short-term fixes will be entirely based on just getting rid of that gear thrashing and getting the current boggy and slow nature of the drivetrain a little bit polished up so we can make the maps more vertically dynamic, let's call it like that, because right now the maps are rather small and they're rather flat for the reason of the drivetrain just literally could not handle it. Especially the AI driving around vehicles could not handle it. And I'll get to the AI later, but there is some fixes coming down the pipe for them as well. I've just been busy on some other stuff. Some of you have noticed that they've been driving backwards. Some of you might be remembering that I boasted, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that I haven't even enabled on them, and they're still like little wind-up toys. That's still true for the most part. They are somewhat functional as shooting targets. That's good. They have a reverse option, obviously. You know what? The funny thing is that they don't have a reverse option. Numbers backwards driving and ability to use wheel stuff. Yes, that will be fixed, and it was fixed on a version of the game that I was working on right before it was found that, hey, dying doesn't work in multiplayer, and now we need to throw like everything we're working on out and need to go fix it and whatever. There's a few pretty fundamental issues with how the AI is currently set up, and all of them can and will be fixed within the next couple of updates. It's just the important stuff down in front needs to be dealt with first, such as the major rebalance changes to some exploits, the transmission thrashing, some of the damage model stuff. I can get into that just real quick. Some of you might have noticed that it's possible to use like ultra thin sheets to do ricochets, and there's a few reasons for this, but one of which the intended turn-in mechanic wasn't implemented as intended. It was kind of patched together. And for those of you who don't know what a turn-in mechanic is, the shell turns into the plate on a normalization, like the actual path that the shell will turn. And those of you that are worried about it, you have every right to be worried about it, because if this is implemented incorrectly, individuals such as Ren will obviously just take that shell and throw it right out of the tank using some black magic. And the intention is to make it turn in by the amount that it penetrates. And then if it is not an overwhelming amount of material that it is penetrating through, it will then resume its original velocity by taking kind of like a stair-step path through whatever it hits. So this is like an extreme angle on something really thin. It should turn into it, penetrate, and then turn back out again and continue on its old trajectory. Somewhat like overmatching, but without the very
arbitrary
arcadey
threshold. Yeah.
Like, the shell just penetrates because I said so. Now you need shove tumbling. There is some mechanics for that, but it's not very well indicated, explained, or implemented in some cases.
Yeah. I think it's implemented. I just have the value set to 0. I haven't turned it on
yet.
Yeah. I asked for it. It's in there. It works. I did a lot of testing.
I thought it was just broken.
No, it's just turned. I didn't have time to balance it. So there we are.
Yeah. So we have some balance things that we need to get to for the damage, whatnot. Like
yeah, and unfortunately, like because of all of the fixes and stuff, and the last big thing would probably be, before we open up to the question answer, is all of the networking finagling we've had to do because of siege mode.
Oh yes.
And then
I could talk a bit about that if we want.
Yeah,
Do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you that know anything about networking, this is going to sound painful. For those of you that don't, which I assume is all of you, so we're just going to proceed with that. There is a network connection to your computer, and the game says here is a packet, and this packet says XYZ, and your game reads XYZ and says, oh, I should do XYZ. And that is everything. Like if you press W and it sends a throttle, then it sends it to the server and sends it back. Yes, you move. If you click to fire, then it clicks to fire. It sends a packet that says you fired. If you move around, it sends a packet that says you move around, and so on and so on. Now, that's fine. If you run into a situation, however, where one of these packets is dropped because a cosmic ray hit it, or like a shark bit a undersea cable, or any other manner of things, this packet will need to be resent. And for those of you who have experienced like rubber banding in games before, or even in this game, where you do something and then it just never happens, and you need to like keep doing it in order to make it happen, that could be a drop packet. So what there is, it's something called reliable, unreliable, sequenced, and unordered. And these 4 methods of packet delivery all have their own quote unquote pipe. So a reliable ordered packet cannot touch a sequenced unreliable packet. Like they just, both of them will arrive and they won't fight over each other. But if you send like 12 packets on the same kind of method that are all sequenced or whatever, and one of them for whatever reason just takes longer to get there, or like something happens, then the next packet behind it will get clogged, and the next packet behind it will get clogged, and the next packet behind it will get clogged. And this runs into a lot of problems really, really fast if you're doing a lot of things, such as, for example, running a networked physics simulation game like we are. And this can be almost anything from like the position of other players to like the orientation of a turret. And we have a lot of very complex stuff going around, and they all need to arrive, if not in the correct order, then at all. And what I have done is I have utilized fully the networking solution that we're using. It was always there. It just required R&D to actually implement, because networking is not one of those things, at least it definitely wasn't when we started, that you can plug and play and then everything works fine. So what I have done is I have phased the connection between 64 channels per delivery method, which gives us 255-ish delivery channels. And instead of it being like one channel per thing that we'd like to happen, like if you log in, that's a packet and that gets its own channel, like some really necessary stuff, this needs to always land, this needs to always be there, they will get their own channels. But stuff like the turret position, like your aim position, and your physical position in space, like these always need to be updated, and everybody needs to update them always. So we got 12 players in a match right now. So that's 12 players always sending back and forth. So what I've done is I've phased the spread of these packets across these channels in such a way, like channels 1 to 4 will be all of the movement packets for operator slot 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then operator slots 5, 6, 7, and 8 will also use channels 1 to 4. And then channels 5 to 8 or whatever will be for the next set of operators. It just phases it all out through these channels. And of course, I can do more to phase these out and decongest all of them. But the current solution went from everybody is sharing the same 4 channels to everybody is phased out around like 128 channels. And this has massively improved things in terms of things actually arriving in time. And those of you who are saying, well, I still have connection issues, my game still sucks, I still have, yeah, I know, I'm working on it, buddy, but this needed to be done first so that could even happen. And for the stuff like syncing the position of all of the TAC units, some of you might have noticed the updates of their position has gotten much better. Well, how did that work? Isn't that like really spammy laggy? Well, in the past, we really did have to make it so it was really slow in order to not flood the network. Yeah, well, now it's actually spreading all of those updates across a bunch of channels to everybody in such a way that it will not congest on one channel. So yeah, there might be a case of, hey, this unit over here, he's kind of janky, that unit over there, that guy over there, but it's not all of them. And that's the key here. And we can really move forward with a lot of systems that were really annoying to deal with before. We might even be able to actually increase the player update rate. Like there's a lot of opportunity here that I spent a while fixing, and it looked like we weren't doing anything. I promise we were super busy.
Yeah, I have literally been unable to get a decent game mode out because of this. And then there's also the spawn connection stuff, which I think has been mitigated. I'm not sure if within the last couple days anyone's played Siege and they've gotten the spawn lockup or spawning in the middle, but whatever. We'll find that later. It's because none of the mission shit is standardized. So I first have to make a library of useful mission tools to make actually good missions.
Yeah, and some of you might think, hey, isn't that like a really stupid thing to not have like preset and ready to go? Yes, I agree fully. There was decisions made in the past that were for expediency of we just need something to play. And there wasn't, let's build an entire framework for 6 months
Well,
and
the
then we
main
can make
reason
missions because there
was
wasn't nothing to build off of. There was nothing
Well-
to do with anything.
the main decision to do that was because we didn't know what those systems would be because
Yeah,
we
you
had a
can't build a framework
completely yeah
if you don't know what you're building. So, and all of what we're doing might look similar to other games, but there's a lot of gaps in precedent for what do you mean you have a fully networked physics simulation tank
Besiege ain't
game
got
with like
shit.
accurate, like Besiege is peer to peer in its physics, which is distinct from our server networking, which gives them an advantage in some cases, but it also really disadvantages them in other cases, like a player count, for example, and hacking. Which can be a huge problem in peer-to-peer. So let's see, was there anything else?
I think that was the main things. I think we'll just open the floor now. So just wave will go kind of in order. You can also like message in the text chat if you don't want to speak, and we'll try to do like one text chat message and then one voice question.
Yeah, so
at a
just
time.
put your hand up, ask to speak, and we'll just do it that way in order that we receive them. If we call you into the voice chat box here, it's fine. You don't need to do any voice chatting. Just say something in the text chat. So
Is the hand thing enabled?
is
Can
it?
you do that? Yeah, okay, there we go.
Okay, there we
Oh, hey, it's a Space Engineers guy.
go. Well, okay, who's first? Invite sent. All right,
Hello,
greetings.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So, first question. Am I allowed to
Yeah.
ask multiple?
No, you will ask one question, then you go in the back of the queue. So just make sure
Gotcha.
you
Gotcha,
write
gotcha.
down your questions so you don't forget them.
Right. So, first question. You mentioned more breaking changes coming in the future. How long do you plan to be doing these breaking changes through development?
Until
So
early
when we
access.
refer to breaking changes, we do not mean your vehicle stops functioning. We are talking about breaking balance changes. We do not intend to do any, like your vehicle no longer loads thing. That happened once with
Yeah.
a really, really horrible quaternion bug that involved a lot of bad things happening. But that was corrected, and that was the only breaking change we even had in development.
And the
that we've done
the rescale
Yeah,
that we had to do.
the rescale, but you could still load stuff. Like you could
Yeah.
still see things. But as for balance breaking changes, there will probably be more in the future and even after early access of like some really exploity build comes out and we need to make a change that makes it so people need to adjust a little bit. Like they won't be able to just immediately launch into game with what they had before that change and have exactly the same outcome. Maybe they're in a different tier, for example. Maybe they're more expensive. Maybe they need to delete something. We don't want to do it as much as possible. It might happen a couple times, but it'll be communicated as far in advance as we can make it, as least often as possible. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Back down with the peasants I go.
Get down there.
Okay, out he goes. Let's see. The next one on the request is
Text
Leah?
chat.
Oh, is it text chat?
Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
any text chat questions or?
Casemate
If you have a
chime
text
in
chat
as well.
question, make sure you put it in the asking to speak. More trims and parameters for existing trims, conical or hemispherical trims, variable thickness, etc. So I have some stuff to say about this, but Steric, you want to take that first?
So yeah, I think the thought right now is we're gonna kind of slowly, at least internally to the dev team, we could be convinced otherwise, but we're gonna slowly phase out trim pieces as like uh
Prefab.
as a prefab like part they may still live on in like special deliberate ways, but they were kind of a solution to like it's hard to make certain shapes out of plates and armor, and we're opting to just make the tools better for making shapes and armor and stuff like that, so you can just make the trim piece that you want.
So this isn't to say that you won't have preset things in the inventory that look like the current shapes.
Yeah.
Like my current intention for this system is I just spent all this effort on making a convex shape creator.
Yeah, so like
It
you'll
would
get a
be very
prefab,
stupid.
you'll get a
not to utilize
preset
it.
like mantlet, but it will be quote unquote cast armor, and so you can just go
Yeah.
in and edit it, right?
And
So
the idea is like you will place it down and there will be some preset options on it, like the little sliders that you're used to. So if you want to be wider, be shorter, and it will just stretch it out and do stuff. And then if you make a change to it that is not part of the preset things, it'll say, "Are you sure you want to do this? This will turn it into a center piece," and then it'll just drop the sliders because it won't make sense anymore. So you'll be able to create a shape that is a preset design, such as a curved mantlet or whatever, and all it will do is it will just put down what is essentially an armor hole with the setup that would look exactly like the trims that you're used to. Yes, default shapes in the modeling program. So like Sprocket, I'm not super familiar with the builder of Sprocket. I played it like once or twice a couple of years back, but if they have something like that, then I guess. But this would not be like, this can only be a box and that's it. Like you would be able to say, okay, I want to break the blueprint, the prefab, whatever we end up calling it, and I want to do like another vertex here. So you'd keep the shape that you made and maybe you want to add more stuff. So it just takes the initial annoyance of placing down the vertexes perfectly, if that makes any sense.
gives you something to work off of.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that'll be extended in a future system, such as like a hull creator that will essentially do the same thing, like placing down the relevant pieces in such a way that is more like modeling putty that you can stretch and pull on and do very intuitive things with. But if you want to break it down and say, okay, I want to make a change to this specific thing, then you will be able to do that. Yay, circle tool. Does that answer your question, Leo? All right, thank you. Next one we got. Why aren't you showing me the whole name? I just see N.
Nina? Streamer mode, maybe?
Greetings. Notice that the crane doesn't refill ammo on my other player's tanks. Is this intentional, or will there be a new way to refill ammo aside from driving all the way back to the base?
I
You
can
want to take that one,
answer
Stark?
this. Yeah. So yeah, that was disabled because it broke a couple things.
Oh.
There. Whoa. The intention is and I had started on this, but like I said, everything broke. So is a dedicated like transfer resource menu that's in like the damage control menu. You have like that radial that comes up. There'll be like that question mark that's blank right there. That's where it's gonna go. And it's just gonna let you can go up to someone, you go hit that radial, go to transfer, and you can select like ammo or fuel or supplies, and like am I giving it away, and like they have to accept or whatever. Like they're
Yeah,
a
there's a few ways to
dedicated
extend this
menu
where, like,
to do this.
you as a player could request, like, hey, I need some ammo,
Yeah.
I need some fuel, and you can go up and say, give fuel, give ammo, just not hockey.
Yeah, exactly. So it just
Recommend
gives a better
that.
interface and way to do this instead of the crane. So yeah, you'll be able to, in that menu, you'll be able to do basically all the consumables. So crew, ammo, supplies, fuel.
When I get around to updating Conquer and Siege, I'll have like ammo bases that get built up, or fuel bases.
Yep.
Yeah, and some tac units that might just be like a pickup truck with ammo on the back. Like you can drive up to and just take stuff out of it. You requisition resources, kind of thing. Does that answer your question, Nina? All right, thank you. Let's see. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak before Taco again? Same three that we already had. Okay. So just
Taco?
goes Taco
All right,
again.
Taco again.
All right. Welcome back.
Hello again. So this question pertains to the server hosting side of things.
Oh boy.
Previously, we did have a little bit of a talk about being able to put commands into the server hosting terminal. When might we be seeing that, and what other plans for improving the server hosting experience
Right,
do
so
you
that
have planned?
that quasar thing that sent me down a rabbit hole. I'm gonna borrow ideas from that, and I think that was inspired by like the Minecraft admin panels. Like you've seen those before, right? On those hosting sites. There's a bunch
Yeah.
of like self-hostable versions, and I really like that setup. So I'm probably gonna copy that when I can get around to it. So you'll have the full feature set.
So to answer your question specifically, as soon as we can get to it, that is the intention to have a nicer interface that will be actually usable by server hosts. Because in the future, we're not going to be the only ones hosting the game. Like, yeah, we'll always have the official as much as we can, but we want people to do whatever they want, including running mods and so on.
Mhm.
We could copy the yeah. I think we'll put behind a $90 paywall, and then
Oh god.
Ramshackle Pro, yeah, what a great idea.
Yep.
torch.
All right,
But yeah,
so
Quasar is interesting, and at some point I'm gonna go through that rabbit hole of trying to host something with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
good question.
all right, thank you very much. All right, get Nina going again. All right, got another support main question. Will there be other engineering parts, such as a plow to dig trenches or the ability to construct defenses like tank traps, turrets, etc.? So I'll just say straight out, right? Terrain modification is my personal thing that I hold very highly. It's on the refrigerator. Like I really love the idea, especially for like explosions, whatnot, like artillery hitting the ground, like digging out stuff. And I did make a lot of progress in optimizing how the terrain is generated in general. Like we went from what was it, like 4, 5, 6 seconds for a relatively small tile to 4, 5, 6 milliseconds. So there is space for terrain modification in the future, but it is not in the short-term plans. I do like the idea. It's just not something that we have in the short term. As for placing turrets and whatnot, I think
That could
Invalid
come,
could talk
like,
about this.
tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
well, not it would be very easy to do it, but there'd be an ugly debug menu. There probably have to be like a module that lets you construct
Yeah.
something with the radial
Like
menu.
in Crossout, there was specific deploy modules. Like it would be a box and it'd say this box has a turret in it, and there'd be another box that's exactly the same size. This box has a drone in it, and that kind of idea is definitely possible. I'd like to be a little bit more creative with it, but for stuff like the crane, being able to build fortifications versus just being able to deploy small stuff. So giving a direct purpose to some of the support stuff without it necessarily being a weapon that everybody can have. Because if we just have it in a box that you can glue onto the back, and oh, it deploys mines, that'd be one thing for having on any vehicle that wants it and can pay for it. But for the specific ability to build fortifications, kind of don't want that on everything that is a conventional vehicle. But having the support mains be able to effectively help and defend ground probably be a good idea.
Or be a necromancer.
Or be a necromancer.
Yeah, we should go into that, the archetype thing in the future.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
that'll be probably good to leave for later.
Right.
Yeah, so hopefully that answered the question, unless you'd like to say anything there, sir.
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Audience, I believe Vio would be the newest in the current queue.
Now Leon
Mhm.
first. There.
Oh yeah,
silent.
Leah. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just go in order of hands up, I guess. Okay, yeah. Casemate trunnions, pintle, remote mounts as their own part.
Billions
Casemate
are asking.
trunnions, I believe the model for that exists, the Casemate trunnion, Cirque.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It just
it's
needs to be
it's a
put
case
on.
of implementing. If you put the thing together, I can make sure the code is happy with it,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and we can get that out the door.
So
because,
the main
that's a
issue
big
with
request.
it, Muzz, just is forewarning, is just all of the current traverse mounts only need to deal with one axis. It would need to deal with 2 axes.
That's fine. I wrote
So
the code in order to deal with 3.
in theory, yeah, it should be fine. So it's just a case of actually like putting it together. And then as far as like having the pintle mount be their own part, we could probably make like a bigger pintle mount, and that I guess could be set up the same way as like the the casemate trunnion mount, right?
Right.
And that would be fine. But having like the smallest, like the small pintle mounts, like for a machine gun or something, be separate won't make much sense because of the way we're doing like the way the current machine gun mounts and stuff. They're way more optimized than we could ever conceive with like a buildable pintle mount of the same like size and complexity.
Which isn't to say that we're specifically constrained on the kind of performance that takes up. It's that
Yeah.
we can have 100 pre-made pintle mounts to 1 turret.
Yeah.
For the same amount of performance cost. And that doesn't mean that we're restricted on it. It's just something to consider. If we want every single player to be running around with these pre-made pintle mounts, that's fine. But if every single player is running around with these stacked
Custom.
physically simulated mounts,
Yeah.
that might be a problem. Now, there is a bit of latitude for like a semi-custom thing.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
like there's a chance.
There's no
like
code
I
for
was,
that yet, but
yeah, I was considering the cons. Like I could do, and I was probably gonna do this anyway. Like I was like, it would be kind of cool to have like a 45 millimeter pintle mount, like and like potentially open up the door to like having more of like the lighter cannons have like a pre-made turret, or you see on like I could
like naval
even
mounts.
for naval mounts, yeah, exactly. Or even to a certain extent like little like fully like armor, like fully done up like little you see on a lot of tanks you have like the smaller like turrets on the front or whatever, like that could just be a whole part that you put down,
Yeah.
and it acts like a gun mount, machine gun mount, so you don't have to pay what is it, a whole bunch of gear points for it.
And there's a bit of space in the future for doing what we've referred to internally as like multi-module parts, where right now every module, if you shoot it and hit it, it has one kind of hit
It
mechanic
has
to
one,
it.
yeah, it has one hit point pool basically per part.
Yeah, so there's no like armor and then like squishy innards. It's all armor or all squishy innards, which is why we don't have more parts like that.
Yep.
That's a design change for the future, but hopefully that answers your question. Oh yeah, I did want to talk about the ball mount parameter for the armor angle. The current ball mount stuff was put in as a test. It's not how we intend to have them, because I'll agree with you, they are dog water. They're not very good for a lot of reasons, especially because you cannot actually get them into any space that has any meaningful amount of armor. Meaning you're kind of hamstringing yourself if you break them.
But you can now with the whole tool, so I have been seeing that a lot.
Yeah, it's still punching a hole in the armor, and it doesn't like automatically do it. Like there's a few details that I'd like to make better, but that is planned, just not in the very short term. We've got a lot on our plate. Hopefully that should be answering your question there. All right.
Next up will
Let's
be
see. VO.
VO.
Hey everybody, how we all doing today?
Good. Hello.
All right, so Steric, first things first, thank you. I needed that system 6 months ago, however, so you will be docked points for that.
Shit.
The terrain deformation thing was pretty awesome to hear about, though. I was always just joking about that. But my question, so as tanks get more detailed and more complicated, I know you have a part system in place that limits the amount of parts you can put in a vehicle, but I imagine like when there's a whole bunch of people running around with highly detailed tanks, what are some of the steps you guys are taking towards having that optimized better, or having performance run better with higher detailed tanks en masse?
First and foremost, the major optimization that can be made has already been made with something called static batching. Like every single time your vehicle is drawn in a frame, the game will batch, quote unquote. It'll draw as many modules as it can in a single draw call up till I think like 65,000 triangles or something like that, that have the same material. Now, for the case of like, oh, they have like 50 little bits of detail armor that like legs the game out when they spawn in. There is some room in the future to essentially have like a deliberate merging tool for things that are detail armor. Now, the people that are going way out of their way to add 50 little bits of detail and stuff are the players that are going to be more inclined to actually put the effort into like, okay, I actually want to optimize this. And what we don't want to do is open the door for like, oh, I just want to merge my entire hull into one big hit point pool. But what we do want to do is allow you to intentionally merge groups of detail meshes together in such a way, either like as you decide, oh, this little star on the side that could be like one thing or
I
whatever.
would like to stop right this second, because that is already being done. Like, we're not going to gain anything from like, they're already getting merged from the rendering side.
Yeah, it's
So
not
we're
the
not
rendering
gonna-
that is the problem. It
Yeah,
is
it's the
the
physics.
script stuff
So-
and all this stuff. Like that's the thing that I'm talking about, where it like merges
Yeah.
the logical module together. Where right now they're separate, distinct modules with their own like synced everything with all the hitboxes and everything. But these can be merged together into a singular module with a bit more technological application as we get into the future. But it'll just
The
need
problem
to be
we've
done
always
gingerly
ran
and
into
carefully.
with that, is like balance, because it can be exploited very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's mostly the reason why we haven't done it. The like in the old days we did, or like this is like way back we did have a system where it would merge, like it would attach the components to like they're connected. So like they're non-structural decor bits or whatever. It would merge them into like whatever plate they're attached to. So when the plate gets destroyed that they're attached to, they just kind of break off with it. And that did work. And we may try to revive that. But yeah, the hard part is making it like what decides what gets merged and what can't.
Probably like a
so-
integrity threshold or whatever. But
Yeah, like it needs to
there's a
be
lot of
like
work
an
to be done ahead of time.
automatic thing that happens that the player doesn't directly influence. Otherwise, you can do some pretty crazy shit.
Wouldn't the earliest merging be just converting the multi-plate into your, when you have 4D plates working?
That'll be something for the future, but as far as I envision it, the best and fastest automated way of doing that is just to look, okay, is it structural? Is it below the integrity threshold? If those two things are true, then just quote unquote weld them or merge them or whatever to whatever they are hooked up to structurally in the first jump. So if they're hooked up to two things at once, it just picks one of them and says, okay, I'm part of this now. And if you slam a tank shell into one of these bits of decor, it might not break it off because it doesn't actually have a hitbox or anything. It's just a visual bit of mesh. And that opens the door to a bit of abuse where it's like, oh, I have this gigantic cube that's non-structural and whatever. So that's why there has to be a bit of an integrity threshold. Like there's a lot of really small considerations here we got to be careful with. Does that answer your question?
Bushes in Ramshackle, made of wire mesh. Destroy King Machine now.
I'm going to take that as a
Destroy
yes. All right, thank
Get
you
him
very
outta
much for
here.
the question.
Thank you, Via. Next,
Okay.
is Caddy.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go.
Hello, hello.
Alright, so kind of on the topic of terrain generation. A little while
Yes.
back, I added a suggestion to basically kind of take, I guess, like the city maps and putting them into different style of maps, like Badlands, swamps, kind of like
Yeah,
a
dude.
So-
module.
Do
Yes, that
hybrid maps, yeah.
That's already on the plan. The reason that you don't see it right now is we've been busy. That's the short version. The longer version is like the parts of the game that require attention, such as the drivetrain and stuff, the things that make driving and interacting with this city that is dense and compact and maybe has like some terrain changes was just not ready for much further development than that. So yes, we do want to do it, and it is totally possible to do it, and we will get to it as soon as we can, probably within the next couple of updates, actually, because, hey, reusing assets is easy than
We have a road generator.
not using them.
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
City
As
generator
well
isn't far off.
as are there plans to add the like garage weather effects natively to maps?
So the weather effects in general are on the chopping block to be wholesale removed in the future, because not because we're getting rid of weather, but we are currently using some old asset packages from like 2018 or 19 or something, just as like, okay, we need a sky, let's move on. And we will be moving to Unity URP, the rendering pipeline in the future, and that opens up a lot more options for us to have better weather effects that aren't hooked up to like almost a decade old asset that kind of sucks. So to answer your question, yes, there will be weather in maps, just not until we get past the rendering pipeline changes that will make that much easier to do.
And there's
Yeah.
nothing like the current weather effects in the test. It's just we just have them turned off. Like we
Yeah.
could literally like I could right now turn them on and they'll show up. And we could do that for a little bit, maybe one of the maps. I am interested if I have like any spare time. I would like to kind of go through some of the current, like all the biomes, and just do like a little shine on them a little bit, like they haven't been touched. Like it's just settings and parameters and numbers, and we have this really fancy new like biome visualizer now that's really cool, and I actually kind of want to use it. So
Yeah,
like
put a lot of work into that.
so like there's a chance that the annoying thing about the terrain gen is like it could do so much, and it's like actually kind of low effort for us to like make it much better. We just haven't.
Yeah,
So
right up
that's-
until like a month and a half ago, we had no way to actually see what settings were doing to the terrain that would be generated. Like we'd need to make a change and then go to scene, wait for the whole map to generate, and go, oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, Invalid just posted a screenshot. Like that's brand new for us.
yeah.
And we'll be utilizing it much more in the future here. So yes, there will be more weather, more variation, more stuff in general. Just a lot of things that just have not been touched for a long time because we've had stuff in the way. We'll get to it though. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So like different city style maps will be
Correct.
The bones
Yeah.
are there. We just have to hook it all up. Yeah.
You hear that, guys? We will get swamp ass.
I fixed swamp, by the way. I just have to remove the ferns.
Yeah.
Easy.
We'll get to it. All right. Next up,
Next is light modifier.
light modifier.
I actually. Hi.
My fucking
Um,
ears. Hold on. Oh my god. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Sorry,
Hello.
Was I too loud?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are now good.
I do have a similar thing as to what Caddy posted, and just more building quality of life questions. Things like that to interpolate a rolled plate or otherwise non-flat plate for merging, or otherwise a native form. Will that ever be implemented?
So your specific
Without
question
3D armor.
is something that I have sat awake thinking about, going, I really want to implement that. I really want to implement that. I should just implement that. The plate bending saga that I went on kind of convinced me that might be the best solution if I can't make the shape generator that I was talking about earlier, where you place it down and you have sliders, and it's actually two plates that are logically one, but we have editorial control over what they do, how they look, until you click the quote unquote break them, and then they stop being one piece. Like there's the latitude for that. We want to avoid openly and without much care implementing a system where you can merge stuff together. So if there is going to be a system like that, it will be heavily curated and controlled in such a way that it does not immediately open the game to a whole bunch of exploits that we didn't intend. But I really want to do it.
Yeah.
So it would be more like you're trying to control a spherical surface, and you're just allowing people to have a slice of a spherical surface.
Yeah, sure. Like I would honestly prefer the ability to go, okay, I have one part of the shape that I want to make here and one part of the shape I want to make here. I click merge, the system goes, those look like those are allowed to merge, and then it merges them and everything's fine, and you don't need to think about it any further than that. But having a dedicated shape builder that only builds that shape, that will also be another part of it. Like there's a few layers to this.
The builder will also,
Might I just contribute? Oh, sorry.
the builder will also be made a lot less painful with like face selection and extruding and
Yeah.
box selection.
Edge grabbing, box selection.
We
Like
might
there's a lot of
reach-
big features.
Like what was that one? Like 1996 3DS Max.
At least
We'll
we
get there.
need to do that. Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up on just as a
Yeah.
thought experiment here. Perhaps you could make it so you're looking for the weld seam on the plates. It would avoid letting people basically put little objects here and there and have that count as zip pool by having it have like a tree-like hierarchy where you have to have joining conditions. Like it can't have an angle in excess of such and such. The join area must be such and such. The thickness differential must be such and such. That may be able to be a
Yeah, okay.
constraint.
So like talking about gamifying these things, because obviously in a real modeling program, you could just have two things that are like from the distance from the Earth to the moon and merge them together, quote unquote, and they're the same model. So having it be conditions that require certain things to be true, such as not being over the integrity cap when you merge them together, that'd be a good one. Actually touching in a certain way that is not too much overlap, because obviously we don't want players to be spamming gorillions of internal faces and whatnot. That would probably not be very good for performance. But yes, as you're saying, gamifying the merge conditions would be a good idea.
The other one was builder quality of life aspects. Right now, constructionally, we're working with quads and tries, and if you create a quad and you try to rotate it like a cheek rhombus, it's fairly hard to transform that shape right now without, say, deleting one of the vertices to turn it into try, and then rotating the try, and then re-adding another vertex to turn that back in a quad to rotate that. Will we ever see something like a tool that allows us to take two tries and then fuse them into a single quad that averages out, or otherwise lets us divide the quad so at least it's easier to like bend the plates, so to say, even if they're separate right now?
So this would be talking about managing multiple modules in such a way, a little bit like the shape creator. So that is part of the plan with the ability to select faces or like a common edge between two plates, and then you pull and move that edge, and then it moves the edge on one plate and the other at the same time. So like you can pull the cheek out of a tank and it just moves all the plates together in such a way that makes sense. That is intended to be implemented along with the shape creator in the future. Hopefully that's what you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
that was pretty much it. So you are saying there's probably likely a tool for edge merging.
Yeah, if not edge merging, then edge management.
Yeah.
All right,
Like
that's fine.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Sounded like you knew what I was
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, I
Must be like
did.
a 3D modeler.
Ilkshik4, just put your hand up and request to speak, and we'll pull you in here and answer your question when you get in. We're just trying to keep a queue going. Let's see. Next one would be Nina again, I think.
Yep.
Support question 3. Will the tow rope physics be changed in the future? Currently feels like punching the tick instead of pulling it along. Yeah, so there's a
Short
few
answer, yes.
problems.
Do
Yeah.
not research.
Yeah, there's a few problems with it, and it is functional, but definitely not what we want to be happening. So the main thing that I want it to make it feel like is either like a trailer hitch or an A-frame. So kind of rigidly keep a certain distance instead of it being like a bungee cord that kind of bonks it along. Like obviously that's not realistic and not very nice to tow around with. So like a simulated A-frame or something to that effect. Unstucking, no, yeah. Being able to actually tow around
into
the
neutral.
vehicles. Yeah, where when you are towing somebody and they have consented to towing or whatever, or like you request assistance and it just automatically accepts anybody helping you, it would just configure your vehicle in such a way that it would make it easier for you to be pulled around. So it would like disable the engine brakes, it'd disable all the brakes. So you would just coast around on the ground, maybe even add some Astroglide under you, just so you could be towed around by the assisting vehicle without it needing to be ridiculously overpowered in terms of torque and traction and whatnot. But that might not be a problem in the future with how the traction changes are going to actually be implemented. But yes, this exact thing has been discussed at depth internally, and we really want to make sure it feels nice and intuitive and consistent.
I'm gonna have like attack unit. You can request a tow and it'll pull you back to base, like a helicopter or something with rope physics.
What?
That'd be
Oh,
cool.
like a freaking truck. Just
Yeah.
give me like
Yeah,
a
I mean, like
a
something.
just a tow
T50
truck.
or something.
Yeah, like a tow truck.
Or like a little procession of them, like a reindeer sleigh of smaller,
Oh my god.
like unmanned vehicles with like the little quad tires.
Yeah.
But yes, that is what we're going for. Hopefully that answers your question.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Going for
Next.
Taco next.
Yes.
Hello again. So, you mentioned with the weights of drivetrain parts that you were going to be changing things and adding some more stuff up to it. Is that increasing the amount of drivetrain parts people need to use, or
So very
what are the plans for
specifically,
that system?
what I was referring to anyway was the plan that we've been running with for a while, where early on in tier 1, you place an engine down, you place a transmission down, you hook it up to the wheels, and you go. And that's all you need to worry about. But as you go on in the tiers, instead of just adding linearly more powerful engines, like this one has 500, this one has 2,000, this one has 50,000, adding modules that one way or another improve the performance characteristics of these engines, such as, for example, a radiator.
Or air filters, or a turbocharger, or that kind of stuff.
Just more stuffing and modules inside your vehicle for people to shoot at, essentially, that aren't critical components that just stop you dead. So if you lose your radiator, your power will go down. It will not stop you dead. If you lose your supercharger, your power will go down. It will not stop you dead. If you lose your engine, that will stop you dead.
That's very cool. I love the modularity of things. It's like, I guess, like from the depths in a way.
Yeah,
in that,
I know what you're talking about.
everything is made out of components, and that is
Well, there's going to be a
I think
slight difference in the sense that
it's not
and from the
critical.
depths it's not critical. Yeah, and from the depths you have to build the engine. If your crankshaft gets sniped in the middle of the engine, you're done. But like yeah.
When do
so
we
it
get
just
the
weighs
engine sim integration? We have to design the entire
and
engine
that
yourself.
trend is going to be for like the entire game. So like
Yeah.
every single system in the game is going to have a similar type of like, instead of just making like, yes, the stats will get marginally better for like when you get up higher tier guns and stuff, like your baseline will get better, but there's going to be more ways to like design around, and there's going to be more ways to like combine things and
Yeah.
obviously
Like this goes to the armor, this goes to the fire control system, this goes to the driving, this goes to the spotting. Like having a spotting drone as a module in later tiers is totally on the cards. Having fire control systems that are fully stabilized with autoloaders as like their own distinct module, fully on the cards. Armor packages that isn't just like composite plate that has X more performance, but it's actually something that you put down and you design the armor around if you want to use it to improve your performance.
Yep.
Awesome.
So layer in the complexity instead of just dumping all of it at rank 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep. Back down to the
Right.
stage I go.
Thank you very much.
Next, on to Ilshik's question.
Yeah.
They posted it in text.
Yeah, okay.
Or is-
We'll do Ilshik, then we'll do Leah.
Yeah, I'll do a text question first.
All right, so we got you in here just so we can see your question. Hi, what are the effects of your game going public and later launching on Steam when the popularity wave hit? What benefits and issues came with that? And if you could go public again, what would you change?
We wouldn't go public, so we wouldn't drive off like 10,000 people who launched the game, then probably lost interest the moment they saw the editor. Probably launched with a better tutorial. But we'll get to do that again in early access.
Yeah, there's a few teething issues with going like openly public like this, especially in cases of like somebody actually plays the game and then they join siege mode and it's a totally broken wreck. Like that was pretty unfortunate.
But
However,
I'd say,
like, there was
but
a
as
lot
a
of
whole,
to do
though,
this.
like
breaking
the game has
issues.
been public though for like a while, though. I think he's kind of referring to that.
Yeah.
I would say like the amount of you get if you actually take feedback well and actually can capitalize on the feedback and actually make changes based on feedback, it's amazing. If you don't care for feedback or you don't like consider it, then don't go public unless you're prepared to actually be actionable in that feedback, because we're getting so much good feedback as far, and the in-game like feedback button is like super great because we can actually like categorize everything and actually like but if you're not actually going to leverage that, it just becomes a massive like nightmare to manage and
Yeah,
stuff.
don't use
Like,
Discord as an issue tracker. A lot of devs do that for some reason.
yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, the population, like, because there are bugs that there are people running this shit on, like, what did I pin? Like a 2-core Intel
256
thing, 2011
megabyte
CPU B960,
Mm-hmm.
128 megabytes of VRAM. Like, that, I love that. Because I can get all sorts of crazy crash logs. Helps a lot with
there's
the
just
Steam
stuff you
Deck.
don't run into on like normal systems, quote unquote. Like if it has like a GPU that was made after like the 780 and you have a CPU from even a decade and a half, typically you'll be more or less fine. But then you run into some really strange oversights that have happened, even just like in Windows that we have no control over. So like it's
Yeah,
a
the other
lot
thing
of
that we did,
examples.
Yeah, and the other thing that we did, which I would, if I were to do it again, I would do it the same way, is make sure that the identity of your game is what you want when you go public. So
Yeah.
like in Ramshackle, we're not really worried right now about like what is Ramshackle. We're worried about like making sure that it's working the way we want and we can actually like add to it, add content and fix stuff. And but like we're not like in this identity crisis mode. Like that's fairly straightforward. So if
Yeah,
you
that
are
was the
in
last
identity,
decade.
yeah. If you if you're not fully 100% locked in on like what the identity of your game is, don't go public because then what's going to happen is your community will make an identity for you and you won't like it and you're going to be stuck with a game you don't want to develop. So just FYI,
Yeah.
that's from past experience, not for this project though.
I've definitely seen it
Yeah.
over and over again where a developer takes on feedback and that has a pretty negative effect on the direction of the game. They can't undo it because now
Yeah.
parts of the game rely on it.
Yeah. They didn't have a strong, like, I guess, direction internally, like from the dev team perspective, and then they let the game just slip. And then, yeah.
So I'll give you the second question for free because we already mentioned it. It's just error reporting being sent to, I think it's like a VPS or something, and that just gets put into our GitLab repository as an issue. Like we built some custom stuff to handle that. It's not super complex, but it's not something that you can buy off the shelf.
Don't tell anyone I asked ChatGPT how to set it up.
Shh.
Shh.
Yeah, VPS and other stuff like that. It's pretty esoteric, but there's only one way to do it, and it's not like, oh, I'm super creative. I don't need AI to tell. Just use AI like a manual and say, okay, I'll try that, and if it doesn't work, well, you learn something. But in the case of actually trying to write code with AI, make sure you know how to code first.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. Really, you really need to understand.
Earliest version of this is like a Google form button in your game, where people can open it up and report their
Yeah.
That's serviceable.
Okay, hopefully that answered your question. Okay, move on to the next one.
Moon.
We're just going to go in
okay.
order of hands up. It's fine. Variable size wheels. Current wheels look small in most way. Double wheels always a toggle, so you can have them. I think they look very cool. I think much use for. So, on the topic of configurable modules, I think they're amazing. I think they're great. I think they should be everywhere. And it will be a thing as we make the systems less and less prone to being abusable. Like in the past, there was actually a drop-down toggle option for changing the type of wheel that you had in order to change its traction mechanics, for example. Changing the size of the wheel itself is a bit more involved than you might think it is, even from the perspective of a normal game, because a normal game where say for example GTA or War Thunder or whatever, where like they make the model, they've controlled the variables and everything, they're doing a whole bunch of smoking mirrors, and you'll notice that the wheel arch always covers the top half of the wheel, and we have in our setup like these giant boxes of the wheel that are super annoying to deal with. There's a good reason for that, I promise, and it has to do with physics. So if we are doing that, it's going to require a few more levels of technology that we might not currently have, but we do want to do it. I do anyway.
I have pending. There's like if you see it in the roadmap, and actually we could probably I'm gonna just fucking stream the roadmap. Pardon my French.
That
Um,
seems like a good idea.
for anyone who hasn't seen the roadmap, there is a roadmap now. I'm gonna just boot up the game. It's in game, right?
Yeah.
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 So I'll just stream that. Because there is a pending. I want to do a wheel rework just in general, as far as like there are some discontinuities between like the tracks and the wheels as far as like how you edit them and stuff like that. I think tracks are like way better to work with because you can like move the individual road wheels around and stuff. But that's not the case for like the wheels. Like there's no like tweakables whatsoever for the wheels. So at least having some amount of controls would be nice.
Oof, I have a question. How do I see the roadmap in game?
Click the button on the main menu.
It's in the
Whoa.
menu. Wow.
So yes, we do have a roadmap here, and yes, having more configurable options for the wheels, because the wheels were the first thing that we implemented as a movement option, and the tracks came later after like a bunch of.
And the tracks
prototypes and
went through like
trials.
three different versions. So
Yeah. So let's see. Hopefully that answers your question, Leo.
Next step will be
Yeah.
Moon.
Gotta get Moon.
Yo.
Hello.
So my kind of question is, as it stands right now, armor is very cheap. I actually might have asked this in the playtest 2 Q&A. I'm not too sure. I don't recall, but armor's a little cheap and it kind of doesn't take up terribly much of the budget. And this kind of has the downside of like tier 1 tanks. No, I totally asked this
yeah, you
last
did,
time,
yeah.
right?
And it is more
Anyways,
expensive
whatever,
than it was in the previous playtest.
Yeah, you guys have been doing good, but no, yeah, I totally asked this. Never mind. I'll be back.
Okay. Thank you for the question.
That will be an internal
Thanks.
battle. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Light modifier.
Hi,
Yep.
will we have an opportunity to build multi-hull or multi-linked vehicles like trailers type configurations, or otherwise
So-
pusher trailers?
This has been a contentious topic for a while on the dev team, going way back when the first thing I did when turret rings were implemented, because we originally only had like prefab turrets that you place down and that was it, like the machine guns in some cases. When the turret rings were first implemented, I immediately took a strut, bent it up over 90 degrees and put wheels on it and built like those road flatteners with like the grater in the middle. Like it was some cursed abomination like that. That's the first thing I did, and then Steric immediately disabled the ability to put functioning drivetrain components on subgrids. So it is possible from a technological perspective. The aspect of having it shift around on like a ball joint, like that example vehicle, is also possible, but we want to be really careful with it because physics are one of those things where it looks super stable and boring from your perspective, but we on the dev team, we all know exactly how little it will take for things to start flying into space again. This has got to be done gingerly and very carefully. So if there's going to be trailers, probably be more like that crocodile tank trailer there for like support vehicles or specialist vehicles. That'd be like a halfway decently easy quote unquote thing to implement.
Yeah,
as
and kind
very
of
intentional
secondary
thing.
to that is like it's in the roadmap, but like towable AI emplacements is unrelated but similar. We are planning on having like the TAC units, little trucks and stuff that spawn in the game modes. Like there's also going to be some like towed positions that you can actually go up and interact with and like hook up to and take somewhere else. And there could be like the crocodile one was for like you can just have like a fuel trailer that you can just hook up to, and you can. So like we're gonna potentially we can weave some of this stuff in sooner with those, but they're not going to be designable, right? They come with the mission, and then you can interact with them, like with there's a tow hitch part that you can put on your build and allows you to interact with them. But having
Totally do like
custom
an ammo trailer.
yeah, so we could do that kind of stuff really quickly. But as far as like a subgrid, like almost like a full on turret, and it's like you basically build more akin to that like tank you showed, that Swedish thing. that will be, a little bit longer in the food chain probably.
Yeah, because we don't have like on paper. Why would you build that?
Yeah.
Just that part we don't even have. Forget about the rest of the challenges involved. But
Yeah.
I'm
And
interested
it
in
becomes
doing
the
it. And I do like the
syncing. Yeah,
idea.
it needs to be synced differently. It needs to, like, does it have its own? Is it like part of your own vehicle, or is it classed as a separate vessel? Like, there's a lot of question marks on like what's the
Like
best
if you
way to do
explode,
that.
can someone just walk up and
Yeah,
tow
no joke.
like your rear?
Yeah, like, is it a separate entity, or is it like, so
Yeah.
there's a couple of question marks there that we haven't nailed down yet.
We do want it. Hopefully, it answers your question.
It does. But just to answer like why, there are some designs in which the articulation allows for better cresting and valley crossing ability. That was one of the reasons I really wanted to ask
Oh
for,
no, not the
because
subgrid
the maps
suspension.
don't have suspension yet.
Oh yeah, the suspension, like it's all very stable. Like I put a lot of work, I think a year and a half ago, into doing like really stable batched physics on all of that, and it works fine. And I do know what you're talking about, but the exact problem that you're trying to solve with it right now might not exist in the near future with the drivetrain changes, where it's not going to be nearly as buggy, nearly as annoying to utilize. So we'll see how that goes, but it should be better, like you're describing, just maybe not worth it from a player effort perspective, but it would be a cool thing. And this game is all about building cool things, so should be fine.
Thanks. That was my question. And I am a enjoyer of weird tanks, so it would be appreciated to see these types of articulated vehicles.
Oh, I love the really weird stuff. Thank you for the question. All right, bet you Rex before he crashes again.
Is there
plans for more ammo types or options? Maybe the forbidden light T3 gun, maybe in the near future. So the recent update added the ability to even have different ammo types, which was a total rewrite of the cannon system, by the way, and the ammo system, and a few other systems in order to make that even possible. So we went out of the gate with saying, okay, everything gets 2 just to start with, and we'll go with there, see how things go. And right now you might notice that you can't have mixed ammo racks, for example. Like you have a unique ammo rack per shell type. There's obviously going to be a bit of room for changing how that system works, because I went through the effort of individualizing every shell in your vehicle is tracked as like its own thing. Like this is shell ID 1, this is shell ID 2, and that will always be the same on all clients, rather than this is shell index position 0 and it could be whatever. That was a pretty big rewrite as well. So there is some room for that, and adding more shell types in general in the future once we're happy with things actually functioning across the board with balance and so on.
There is kind of an open question mark amongst the dev team right now is like, do we want to have tiered ammo? Like you have like a rank 1 gun, and then there's potentially rank 2 ammo for it, like a
question? No, that's cool. Do that.
Yeah, but that throws a lot of complications of like, how do we set up the ammo racks and stuff like that? Because now you could have potentially mixed ammo racks with mixed ammo, and therefore that changes how the rank is classed in the
Is
game.
that
So like,
one
I don't-
APFSD shell? All right, you're tier 2.
Yeah.
That it's not actually hard to do that, so long as I just add like another bit of API to the thing that decides what tier you're in. Because right now it's just looking at the module itself as a whole and goes, oh, that's a module from tier 2, so you're in tier 2. But they're like 2 or 3 lines to add, hey, this is a module from tier 2 because it has this in it now. Like it just changes a bit of the integration. So it is entirely possible to do that, where you can quote unquote over tier guns by giving them better ammo, just like real life. Like guns were modernized and brought into the future by adding on better shells and so on. Hope that answered your question. Let's see. Thank you. All right, got Moon.
I think we missed Drifter.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Is he crashing?
No.
I don't see him in the request list.
Okay.
Not coming too soon. Okay. Not too
You
sick
still
to talk. That's fine.
wave your hand, and
Yeah.
we're using that to like.
Yeah, make sure that
There
we're
you
good to
go.
go. So What can you tell us about radio man roll and how will that affect function? So the current radio man roll does not have any implemented functionality. It was put there as a placeholder and probably should not actually have been visible, if I'm being honest. But the exact purpose of it has to do with attack units.
So the intention is, first off, the radio module just gives some basic functionality that is currently free right now. So like be able to, see teammates and what your enemies you're spotting and stuff like that. That'll be built into the radio module. That's not going to be that critical. It's just you need to make sure you have one at least. But the main purpose of it is going to be commanding TAC units, which are like the random trucks and scout cars driving around. Also, how you interface. There's gonna be like internally we're calling it like a call-in system, or a strategic support system, which is like, we've seen CAS in the past. We can do like more like directed artillery strikes as well. We can do like you can
Stratagem.
request like stratagem kind of thing. So it's like it would be how you interface into those like external like mission elements, so you can have more projected firepower instead of like trying to put all that firepower in your own vehicle. So they
So it
would be
might actually be
expensive,
useful to have a loader radio man where he's mostly on the radio and you're trying to keep your head low and not getting shot because you're actually calling in strikes and stuff.
Yep. So there'll be like a cooldown system. There'll be like some kind of you can't just like have 10 bazillion call-ins or something, but so it'd be kind of how we would, like in War Thunder, you have like the artillery strike and stuff like that as like a key, it would, how you interface and set that up would be through the radio module and therefore the radio operator. So for example, the cooldown is only ticking down when the radio operator is actually like occupying the position, for example. So you can't just call in something and then like have the radio man switch back to loading, and like the cooldown will never reset. You need to have them like sit there, so.
And yeah, it's just an impending system that we want to do a lot with. We just have some stuff in front first, but
Yeah.
that should answer the question. All right, who are we going to go with next? Just Nina?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, just a reminder, guys, if you want us to answer your question, just make sure you put request to speak, even if you don't intend to use the voice chat at all. It's just what we're using to keep track of what's going on. Okay, what you got?
Bigger ammo racks for machine guns.
So specifically the magazines.
Yeah, the magazine or the actual physical like rack.
Or like belts.
Or belts or something. I'm just going to assume that it's like the amount of time that you can fire it before you reload it.
Yeah.
So previously it was done like that because the way the machine guns were implemented was they were just smaller cannons that fired faster, and they had all the full fat requirements of that system, which meant like when it works for an 88 millimeter gun, that's fine. But when you fire an 88 millimeter gun like 20, 30, 40, 50 times a second, things start getting laggy. Because, well, it's using the entire penetration code. It's using all the physics and everything else. Like back when it was implemented originally, we did not have these very good systems and controls and batching and optimizations about how everything works. And we're getting there. Now we really do. So we could move into a situation where you'd actually be able to fire the machine gun for more than half a second before running out of ammo. It's just one of those things that was a little bit left behind as we got more technically competent and things became more optimized, because there was a point in time where you put 8 machine guns on, you hold the trigger down and you crash someone's game. Like, obviously we don't want that to happen. So the magazines themselves probably be made bigger.
Yeah. And another
probably
thing too
have
is
like belt feeds and whatever.
Yeah, you'll have there will be other ranks of parts. You'll have higher rank machine guns that are set up slightly differently, for example. So these were like the simplest machine guns I could conceive for like rank 1 and stuff, the low ranks. So having a gun that you can place down and then you can place like a remote belt feed ammo rack that's directly connected to it, maybe using the same system the hydraulics use, right? Where you link it and stuff, and it creates the chain, the belt feed and stuff. Like that's all on the cards for like higher rank stuff, like rank 4 and 5.
But I definitely feel the current machine gun rate of fire and magazine sizes are way too slow and way too small, and the oncoming changes to how projectiles are even synced, which is what I was working on yesterday, which is related to how like dispersion and stuff works. But essentially, if we were doing it the old way, it wouldn't work out, and doing it the new way, it will work out a lot better. But being able to just spam down a bunch of lead in that direction and not need to reload every half second for 10 seconds, like that's the short-term goal. And in the future, as we add more and more complex modules like belt feeds and the GAU 19 or whatever, that'll be in the future. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see, what do we got next? So we've done Leia a whole bunch of times, and we got someone who has not spoken yet, I think, right behind them. So we'll take their question first. Then we'll go back to Leia after this.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Another thing about tiers, let's see.
We got a Cold War era gun that's bad to a lower tier.
Okay, so like under tiering weapons based on worse ammo
Performance.
is the question?
Yeah. So short answer, no.
So like the considerations that are made into all of the balance setup of a weapon, like its integrity, its weight, its reload characteristics, its performance, all of these things, even its form factor are all considered. Like some of the weapons that you might have tried to use in your vehicles, they are set up to be annoying to place down intentionally because that we can make them more powerful because it's just a worse form factor. That's part of the balancing element. And we don't really want to do it as the base level of the game. However, if you are running your own server and you're running your own mod pack, because we are going to have modding support, this is one of the things that could be done.
Yeah, we're abandoning it. We're not doing it, not because it's just a massive time sink from a balancing perspective. Now, what can be done and what we will probably be doing to kind of sort of answer your question, like, so one of the things I would like to do as far as like the eras in general, and this is something I'd like to stick to, hopefully, is I actually want the eras to be like, say you pick a window of time, 1950 to 1960 or something like that. And the equipment in there is stuff that you'd see from that era. And we're not going to be shoving down something into another era because it's shit, right? So like if the part, let's say a really obsolete design, maybe it's a I don't know.
Hunters.
Yes, take something that was kind of a development dead end, but it was developed way too late and stuff. So it ended up in like 1956 or something. And its stats are just kind of garbage. So we're like, all right, we're going to put it down to like the previous rank. Instead of doing that, we're going to keep it in its rank, even though it's underpowered, and just either make it really cheap or like buff some aspects of it. Like we don't necessarily need to stick to like trying to make things like hyper realistic. If we if we want to,
Yeah.
we could potentially buff some aspects of it that makes it a little bit unique. And like I would much rather do that than to just drop it down a rank and like now there's like
Buff things
heat
instead
FS.
of nerf them
Yeah.
or put them in a like the playpen to deal with things that it can actually tolerate or whatever.
Yeah, like so that way there could be like we can stick to general like patterns and trends in each rank instead of like this thing is so shit but it's in rank 2 but it has heat FS but it's still garbage. Like probably not going to do that.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. We'll move right along. I think Heto has been waiting for a long time,
Yeah,
so maybe
yeah.
we should get him. Okay, come on, Heto. Hello, hello. Can't talk because it's too early. That's fine. Are there any plans for designer integrated game modes, for lack of better terms, evolving editing a vehicle between rounds from a starter vehicle? So this exact thing is something I got into a big fight with Derek about like 4 or 5 years ago. I love that idea. I think it's the best thing in the world. I ran multiple streams involving such a thing, like in StarMade, like you get 3 minutes to build and then the doors open, you can fight, blah, blah, blah. Like the building quickly, efficiently, and like in an effective way was part of the gameplay. I love that idea. Most people hate it.
All right, take a break. Got 1 hour to build.
Yeah.
like a rolling game mode. Like I love that idea, and I will fight tooth and nail to allow it to exist, but I would never force anyone to actually play it.
Yeah, like in a long-term game mode, you would be able to back out and then edit your vehicle and then go back in. You just probably like lose your score or whatever.
Yeah.
If your player slot got cleared, then you have to
So
respawn it.
there's a bit of latitude for that, but for a actual codified game mode for it, I can see there being room for like a custom game mode that you intentionally make as a player, and you click a box that says, okay, after each 5-minute round, you get 5 minutes to make changes to a build that you start with, and you can't import anything. You got to build right there. Like that could probably be a pretty interesting challenge for streamers to do. Not to appeal to the slopping masses, but that'd be entertaining. I'd watch that.
Oh god, how do you track progress through the X?
Yeah.
Because like battle room is like a whole different process, and like
Like it would need to be really tightly coordinated and
It
controlled.
would need to be built into like it's a lobby game mode. It's like
Yeah.
like it's a we always get this. So like in the battle, like Siege is a air quotes battle mode, but we internally the dev team get that confused. It's just it's the game mode. Like that's what like on the surface it's called, but internally it's a battle mode. Game mode actually refers to like the progression of like the entire like scenario. Like is
Right.
it sandbox or is it like the current like level up system, which is the only other option. But in theory,
the
we're
future there'll be
planning on
more.
having we're gonna have more of those like scenario modes. So one of the scenario modes could be like that format potentially, and it could be quite fun.
Yeah, but what we don't want to do is just like slap something together that kind of sucks and kind of is broken and then force people to play it. But
Yeah.
if it's something that you intentionally walk into with the intention of going forward with it and having it be like a single player or cooperative experience, I think that's a lot of fun. Like I had a lot of fun in From the Depths with one of the original campaign modes where like you take your horrible little dinghy boat and you just keep building stuff on top of it instead of going into the designer and building something perfect.
Yeah.
Like the feeling of emergency additions on top of each other makes for a really compelling experience, I think.
Yeah. When we have like local game modes that like you can be connected to a server and you can run like the test drive is totally local on your client. When we can do that for like a mission file, I'm gonna do like some tutorial, like a driving tutorial, and I could do like the Armored Core arena mode where you fight a 1v1 versus some AI.
Yeah, like
That's what I
very
use as a test
controlled
mode.
experiences that like you need to overcome a challenge and so on. And like a cooperative designer is something that is possible, especially with the whole bunch of the changes that we've been doing, especially with the undo changes where it now actually functions. Round of applause for functioning undo mode. Wow, it doesn't delete everything. But having the ability to have multiple players work on the same design in tandem is something that I hold to very high regard because I think that's awesome. That was one of the coolest things that was in Starbase. If any of you have ever played that, was the cooperative designer concepts. And just working on a build out in space with somebody, just doing stuff like two people working on the same thing. It's a cool experience. It's fun. I like it.
Yeah, and I think it's entirely possible to do that with the current like lobby garage system too. Like it's not that difficult. It's just the it's a slightly different feel, but you'll see parts just start popping into existence basically.
Yeah, like we would need a different highlight system, or maybe like a dithering material for like when somebody is touching something else, it locks it out from your control. So if somebody is editing the vertexes of a plate, like you can't touch the plate. Like that would be the concession we need to make, but I think that'd be fine. So hopefully that answers your question, Edo.
There's this cool indie mech building roguelike game called Granvir, and it can have like 10 players, and they're all editing in the same lobby, and like you can look off to the side and see like your like a synced designer of what their mech looks like as they're making changes.
Yeah, way back when that was one of the original concepts for like all the players in a lobby or a server. Like you'd look over in another bay down the hall and you'd see someone else building, and like you could fly over there with your camera and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" It's a lot of stuff that we really want to do, but cooperative designing is possible with the current set of technology we have. We don't need to build new stuff. We just need to make sure that it works properly, consistently, and without breaking stuff, and like we'll implement it.
Yeah. All right.
Let's see. So I think everyone in the request to speak list has spoke before, so we'll just go Layla again. Apologies for delaying you multiple times, but low tier unguided rockets, RPT-5, Calliope, German rocket artillery, and like, don't worry which else. So the major thing with rockets is that they have a completely different kind of ballistic behavior to shells, even though, they go in the arc or whatever. But like they have dispersion over the time of flight, which is actually something that I'm working on in the background as a bit of a prototype to make it happy rather than just like angling out at the end of the barrel. There's a few bits of technology that need to be properly accounted for, and this is kind of a problem that sort of was fixed with the multiplexing of channels in the networking, but actually keeping a shell synced over its entire flight path is surprisingly difficult.
Yeah,
You
once
might
can
think,
have-
yeah, just sync like the firing position and the speed. So what's the problem? Well, what if you miss that packet? Well, now we need to fast forward it and get you into the right position. But I really want to do it because I think they're fun. I like unguided rockets.
We will soon have the technology.
Yeah, we are working on it. Promise. All right, next up. Hello. Is the team working on the game full time right now? And if not, do you plan to? And with all the feedback coming in, do you feel like you have enough time to manage it and continue development at the desired pace? I'll go first. I've been working on the game full time for about pretty much since December, maybe like November. I wake up, I go on my morning walk, I sit down, and anywhere from 9 to 18 hours later, I stand up, go to bed. And that just repeats every single day for me. That's why I'm not playing the game or playing other games. Like some days I'll take a day off, but it's pretty much full time for me. Now the rest of the team have a bit of a different situation, but as far as I'm concerned, this is my job.
Yeah, I think in Valid you're also working on it pretty much full time, or
Pretty much, although I'd sleep longer.
Muzzy, all right. So I have a history, and the dev team will attribute this. I'm only happy when I am neck deep in things that are broken and seemingly impossible to fix. I need
Yeah.
problems, and if I do not have 10 problems to fix, I will create 10 problems for myself. Like I will.
and trying to manage that is challenging. But
Yeah. So just throwing me at a stack of problems saying, there you fix it, like that's how I work. That's my happy place. I love doing it, just like some people like train sets. Like this is my fixation of just optimizing things, fixing them up. Like we went from 20 frames per second with 2 people on a server to like 60, 90 frames for a decent client with 12 people on a server. Like that's a huge difference, and you don't feel it as a player. And I think that's awesome because the less you think about my work, the better job I have done. I'm not doing the flashy stuff like the models. I'm not doing the flashy stuff like the menus. I'm in the background just banging on things until they function properly, and stuff like the shell analyzer. All of that is 100% me. So if there's a problem with it, I'm sorry. Bring it to me and I'll try to fix it. I know right now it's a bit visually noisy. We wanted to get presets in for like, this is the mode of the shell analyzer that you use when you were looking for a certain kind of thing. Like you're looking for the armor degradation, if you're looking for AoE, if you're looking for these things, those weren't quite implemented. You can see the buttons are not functional, but we'll get to them. But there's a whole settings menu that lets you toggle things on and off in there. It's all very true to how the system works. There's no smoke and mirrors in there. If there's a number in there, that is the system actually using that number, for example. I love doing it. And no, I'm doing great.
yeah, I think the only one
s-
is really just me that is not full time on the project just yet.
Yeah, you got your own thing in real life, so there's just not enough time in the day to go around between another full-time occupation and this throughout the week. So Stark is gonna be less visible probably going forward for the near future. But he is on the project still, obviously, just more part-time.
As for me, I am happiest when I am setting up a Minecraft server. And this has been like one continuous setup for the past 2 years. It's pretty great. Now, actually playing it is torture, but it's the journey. No, I really like working with all these utilities and stuff because the point is to like actually distribute this so other people can do their stuff, not just have live service slop. Oh yeah, for the Patreon members, because of that, we're sitting at like 120 per month. I can upgrade my internet for something this decade because I'm running on like a Google Fiber promotional thing from like 2016. It's like $50 a month at the moment. And the reason I haven't upgraded it is because it'd be $20 more for the same speed. So like, why bother? But now for like, I get like an 8 gigabit connection for like 150. That is the perk of living in a concrete hellscape, major city.
Yeah, so the Patreon right now is going to be helping us not so much justify spending more time in the game, because this is my future plan. If Ramshackle does not work, I'm on the street. Like, this is my life. I need this to work. But the more money that goes into the Patreon and keeps the lights on for like the server and whatever, like we can spend more time on the little detail things. We can do all the things that need to be done before the Steam Early Access launch, when we actually start asking for an upfront price tag. Like, this will keep the lights on, is the idea.
It'll allow us to keep testing it, so
Yeah.
it can be better on launch.
Should we tell them about the stuff, or should I come later?
What stuff? Oh, the tier rewards and stuff, or
Yeah.
I
Did I
could probably
mention
come
that?
at the end. I haven't
Yeah, cool.
mentioned it yet. No.
That'll be fun.
Oh yeah, might want to look into Kofi, as I've heard it has a better pace. But yeah, we could set up a bunch of different little. If you want to put money into this jar, if you want to send us Bitcoin or whatever, like, okay, fine.
I
as many
wonder-
things as
There's
people
one
request,
we need
we'll
to
just set
figure
it
out
up.
for. We need to figure out for Fran, for sure.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth trying to figure out how exactly to pay for Fran's
Yeah, that's
excellent work on the
interesting.
sounds and soundtrack. Some of you might have noticed that we've actually had more of his songs playing rather than just one or two. So please turn on the music and have a go. The music player is quite robust. In the top right, it's like a little musical note. It's some good stuff.
All right.
Oh, 2%. That's pretty good. So hopefully that has answered your question, Ishik. Ishik. Okay, what do we got next? I think everyone here has spoken, so we'll just go sequentially.
I see Vio in the queue after Drifter. Or no, that's
Yeah.
old.
Light
Hi,
modifier first.
again.
Hello.
I heard you guys have a specific system for individually identifying the shells in the rack for networking. The question here is, I saw this in suggestions with ammo racks. This is tangential to my suggestion, but right now we have a system of excluding shells via tilt, but some tank turret designs, and given the current balancing, because the ammo racks are 5 points no matter their size, some volumes would benefit in being able to selectively remove shells, but not as a slice necessarily, but just from excluding, say, one or two, or just a notching out, like a quad, where you have a quadrant of shells removed.
Yeah, so I know what you're talking about. I actually experimented with doing all sorts of different ways of changing the shape, and you've come to the same conclusion that I have, where the best way of doing this is some mode, maybe it's vertex edit on the rack or whatever, and you click on a particular shell, and it gives something like on the settings menu on the right, like remove this shell from the rack, and it just cuts that part of the rack out, so you can make a U shape. Like, that I feel is probably the best outcome for this, and probably charging per shell instead of saying $5 a piece for the whole rack.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can do that now that they're properly tracked.
So that is likely to be a future change of being able to individually edit the shape of the shell.
Yeah, there's no code in
Or
the
shape
game
of the
that
rack,
is
right?
set up for it. Yes, shape of the rack. There's no code in the game set up for it right now, but I know it needs to be done and how to do it in such a way that it will not break everything. Because obviously I don't want you to have to replace everything. And there's a few oncoming changes to how the reload system will be considering some of the factors in reload time. Like, some of you might have noticed that it's not actually possible to create a historically accurate T34 ammo rack in such a way that does not blow out the reload time. And that has to do with the floor on the orientation being 0. So it must be correctly aligned or it will start punishing you. And there's room to make that like 45 degrees or some other amount. in the future. But we're definitely going to be making changes to what you can do with the ammo racks and how the reload is calculated into your weapon.
That was probably the coolest bug report I've seen. Is like, okay, I got this 1-to-1 mock-up of the T-34 ammo layout.
Yeah.
And it's
if you
not
guys
right.
want a balance change, the fastest way to get it to happen is demonstrate, hey, here's something that I should be able to do as according to this historical thing that I can prove, but because of the way you have the game set up, I can't do it. And more often than not, we're going to consider that and go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Especially for the example of the T-34. That's what we're using to kind of compare the weight balances to. Like if we're seeing our test model of the T-34 is much heavier than a real T-34, that means we need to reduce weight. If it's much lighter than T-34, it means to add weight. And I think we're like a couple hundred kilos
5
below it right
tons.
now. Yeah, 500 or 5 tons rather. Like that's what we're going for, is not so much realism, but some point in space that we can peg the balance to, like pegging the dollar. Like this is what we're basing everything else off of, and if this isn't working, then the whole system's off.
Yeah, it's a sample point. That's all.
Yep.
You know, just get it close enough. It won't be perfect because conditions and stuff. But
All right, that,
Yeah,
that was
we
my
always-
question. I don't
always
want to ask
appreciate
a second one, unless if it's okay to ask a really short one.
Okay, you got one.
Will we have ammo rack priority for being able to restock ammo? That was my suggestion.
So currently it only looks for the, is this a ready rack? Is this not a ready rack? And what you're asking for is staged racks, right?
For restocking the non-ready, from non-ready, where we can select, hey, we want this one to be pulled from first. Like I have a piece of ammo on the outside of the tank, I want that to be pulled in first before any of the stuff on the inside. Or also from the ready rack, I want this ready rack to deplete first and to be filled last.
So in the past, this would have been impossible. The new system will definitely allow for that. There just isn't a specific piece of code that is going for it, but having a priority in the rack, similar to how there's a priority in the fuel tanks, but a little bit more intuitive, is probably what we're going for. Because right now it just auto sorts by what is the fastest next reload that I can do. But in some cases, maybe you don't care if it's the fastest. You just want to get that ammo from the top of your roof into the gun instead of on the roof. And that'd be fine.
All right, thank you. The roof
All right.
example got me.
Thank you very much. All right, Theo.
Hey, it's me again, here to annoy you all.
Oh, good.
I remember talking about this with Derek earlier, and we were talking about the map procedural for a little bit, and also the turn Ramshackle to Deadlock, but mostly the map procedural thing. Well, right now where it stands, and I think that we actually had this discussed in the last Q&A, but I'm going to bring it up, rehash it now. 50% chance, 50% chance you just get shafted if you're playing on one side of the map. Because one team will get high ground and rocks and terrain and all that stuff, and I have to drive out into this big open mess, this great vast beyond, with no real way to go around. And it still happens now and then, or you just get some weird like AI to get stuck. They don't know where to drive, or they're driving around in the spawn and they're not really going out to meet like the other forces. So I was wondering, and I know Steric has also brought up that you don't want you don't want like handmade maps where people can memorize sniping positions and such like that. But so I'm wondering what the probability of seeing more handmade maps for different game modes would be, and if there's
So
going to be a revamping of the procedural system for the levels.
right now, in siege mode, the maps are handmade, more or less.
Yeah.
With just like some random stuff scattered here and there. The intention with the biome generator that was posted in the chat by Invalid a while ago was specifically to allow designers, us, to very quickly and easily see the consequences of whatever they're doing. But for the specific setup of maps and making handmade maps, I'm all for having particularly handmade maps, especially if it's something that people can submit in such a way that doesn't require like full access to the project or whatever. Like it could be anything from, here's an MS Paint drawing of a green field with a blue squiggle through it, and that creates a green field with a river through it and has some different criteria. And that would allow you to create specific designs of maps in a very intuitive and easy way. But for the case of handmade from start to finish, we can still use the procedural system for that. We just, instead of saying, okay, the biome for this specific setup, whatever it is, has a range from X to Y. It'll just have a range from X to X, and that's it. It'll just generate the same thing every time. And we could also do some more interesting ways of generating competitive maps, if you want to call it that way, where it says as a criteria, this side of the map needs to have the following things. It needs to have a hill with bushes on it. It needs to have a valley. It needs to have a clear path for the AI to travel from the spawn outwards from. And beyond that, the rest of it could be procedurally generated.
My plan is like an external map editor, like this Unity thing I'm using right now. It would just be like a separate executable in the toolkit or whatever, and that makes an XML file or whatever, and you can just because for a consistent map you would need to like pin a seed, and then make sure the seed you got has like a decent layout, or you can just delete some rocks or whatever.
This is dangerous. You have no idea how long I'd spend in a map editor. You have
Good.
no
I
idea.
have no interest at all in making handmade maps because in early development that was my job. Like I wasn't a programmer. I was like aligning in map.
No, that's typical for game design. That's very typical.
Yeah.
To the front lines with you. I'm just a doctor.
I spent a long time on very custom handmade maps that were very fun and whatever, but because of how they were being made, because of how the systems work, like we were using the Unity terrain, we were using baked
CTS,
lighting, we were using baked occlusion and all that. Like it looked good, it felt good to play, but in order for me to make a change, like, oh, I want to make this railway 5 meters shorter, 5 meters wider, and also turn it around. That's going to be a 6-hour job.
Oh, it's recompiling, isn't it?
It could be a little bit of recompiling, but it was actually mostly baking. And the reason that it had to be baked is if I did not bake it, it would look like hot garbage. And when I bake stuff in lighting and Unity, especially at that time, using the Lighten engine from like Unity 2015, it would create these light map files that were like 500 gigabytes per map. So every map that we added would expand the game size by a lot. And we want to keep this game size small, not only as a flex, but also as a flex. And I don't feel like downloading a 20 gigabyte update for my game. I want it to be as small as possible. So the best way of doing that is with procedural maps. That does not mean every map needs to be a shitty random blob that sucks for both sides. It can be handmade maps, absolutely, especially if we have a map editor tool, but it will be procedurally generated from whatever design is made, rather than having the map files in the game. There's never going to be, this is XYZ map, and you can open it as a model like you can in other games, because we frankly just don't want to. But to make the tools good enough to be usable by people outside of the dev team to create their own custom maps, like maybe you want to build like a World War II LARP server, and you want to build like a D-Day map that looks exactly like Normandy Beach. We want that to be possible.
Oh, I'm just going to choke point the other team on the beach with my map design.
Exactly. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, we're using a deterministic procedure generation. So as long as the input file is the same, it should generate the same map every time. So just
like the server's not sending you any files.
Yeah, it's just telling
what
you
the map looks like.
It's just telling you, it's giving you the seed, it's giving you the XML config, which is like 5 kilobytes, if not even, it's like 1 kilobyte.
You know what? I think I'd love to see some community-made maps for sure on Ramshackle.
I would too. I have other shit to do. I don't want to make maps, please.
Yeah. No. Fuck yeah. Yeah. Give me the tools. Give it to me now.
The intention was to have like that was the as far as like the first moddable features, like I think is maps, game modes, and parts, in the sense that at least open that up. But parts are going to be like there's a lot of documentation we need to do for that. But
yeah,
the ultimate goal is that war mode on the long term, and like the majority of the battles will be hopefully interesting procedural encounters around like a landmark of some sort.
Yeah, like a proper Hell Dealer campaign.
Yeah, honestly, I still think there's a place for procedural generation. Yeah.
Did you play MechWarrior 5?
Only a little. I haven't really played a lot of. I have way too many games. I barely play any, and I've been spending too much in your stupid Ramshackle game. I hate it. I hate it.
Same. The MechWarrior 5 has a procedural generation of its maps, but it's in Unreal Engine, which makes everything more painful than it needs to be for reasons
Oh,
that I'm not going
say
to go
no
into.
more. Say no more.
And when they finally did fix their game and make it so you didn't have to play through the stupid campaign that nobody liked, and every planet you land on is like a procedurally generated thing, and all the AI works, and it's a beautiful experience that works 30% of the time. But when it works, it's so cool. And that's kind of the direction I want to go with the procedural maps. Not so much like you have red team, you have blue team, and the map is generated in such a way where you get shafted. That
Yeah,
this
I feel
isn't the
like
end goal.
I feel like procedural generation really benefits a lot when it's just you versus the AI, like PvE
Yeah, or
experiences.
co-op and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, co-op too, for sure.
yeah. So hopefully that answers your question, and
Yeah.
we're gonna move on.
Made me optimistic. All right, take care, guys.
Yeah, optimistic. Listen to this nerd.
The fool.
This is a fool.
Who's next? Nita? Okay.
Hello again. Would combined co-op control vehicles be possible, similar to those merge builds in Crossout? So
Yeah, you can do a hook point. That's probably the extent for it. Until early
specifically the way of like I drive the tank and my buddy shoots the gun and it's all one vehicle that I load into battle and I invite him to control the turret. Do you want to tell them why that's probably not going to happen, Sterk?
Oh, so that happens accidentally sometimes when like you leave the game and the AI takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So merge vehicles and crossout are definitely doable. Like that style is fine. Like that's doable. How practical that's going to be, I'm not too sure. To kind of Muzz's point, I would like there to be like a better way to do that than like maybe you can platoon up and you can maybe all like drive the same vehicle. Like multi-crewed vehicles, I feel is much more interesting as like a deliberate thing than just let me just puzzle piece these two designs together. But yeah, as far as how the networking is set up at the moment,
There was this really weird PS1 game where you like drove a fairly realistic tank, and there was a two-player mode where one controlled the hull and one controlled the turret, and it was like you didn't need a split screen for that, so you just had two guys sitting in front of a screen, not a controller. Like that would be the
and that's a really
earliest
cool
mock-up.
experience. But to skip a few 9900 on the network problems is the network challenge is not impossible to overcome, but for the longest time, what was assumed is one vehicle would have one core module, which is your cockpit, and everything would weld to that, and it would just hold everything about your vehicle, like who you are, what your networking stuff was, your health, like it would just be the big brain box that everything hooked up into. And for a long time, we've been pulling things off of the core as we go very deliberately in order to be able to go into the future without a cockpit. Specifically the cockpit module, like being able to designate, this is my central core thing that everything hooks up to, just being able to do that deliberately, then that would open up probably some exploits in here and there, but we can deal with that in the future. But right now we can't do that because of how the networking really relies on that cockpit being there. And the last thing that is required to move off of it, I believe, is the input system.
the vessel control system. Yeah.
When you go into the controls menu in the designer right now, and many of you don't use it because it looks scary, and I agree, it looks pretty scary, and it's not very intuitively set up because it was put together like 5-6 years ago, before a lot of tools today were even available, and it was to allow rebonding of your controls, so you could just arbitrarily set inputs. That is going to be going away, not because we don't like it. I like it because I have brain problems, and I'm sure some of you do too. The major problem is that it makes actually changing anything about the input system extremely breaking. This would be one of those breaking changes that we're talking about. Like your build would still work because the defaults that it would come out of the box with would function, throttle and all that, but you would not have all of your current stuff. So if you have like very specific settings and like, oh, I use this button for like steering hard or whatever, like none of that is going to be carried over into this update, and it will be possible to do it. It'll just be done in a much more deliberate and specific way that is not so tightly designed with the vessel core. And that's the main thing that's stopping us from doing multi-crew, is because there can only be one core. Multi people per whatever. 2 players controlling the same vehicle.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, kind of convoluted. It's a little bit different, but short answer, yeah. We don't have a good way of setting up 2 players to control one vehicle. There's another statement there as well. This was something that we're probably going to do first. Is we want but this is also kind of connected to that. Is the ability to take your soul and move it to another vehicle. These are kind of two of the same issue. So like taking your soul. So if you want to move and control like one of the other AI vehicles on your team, and it's like I'm controlling this one, then my vehicle I was running is now AI.
Like I think there's a Battlefield game like this where you died, you just jumped into another AI body.
Yeah,
That was the world. Gaijin made it. Yeah, that one.
Enlisted. Yeah.
Enlisted. I was thinking of the much earlier Battlefield games, or like on the PlayStation 3 or whatever. But
anyway, so that has the same issue. It's less with the actual like vessel core and like, you know, how that's managed and stuff. It's more the fact that like the state that vehicle's put into is assuming that the player is operating it, and it can't seamlessly switch to a state of like
right now, it would essentially need to respawn the vehicle.
Yeah, effectively. Yeah.
Because like there's essentially just a little bit. There's a little flag in there when it spawns a part or a module in your game. Are you controlling it, or is it other? Is it someone other? And if it's someone other, then a lot of the internal code of that module just does not run on your machine because the server's doing that. You're not doing that.
Yeah. Otherwise, the game would just run at 2 FPS. So it needs to like re-enable a lot of stuff that like, and stuff won't even try to set up. Like, why do we need to set up this system if it's never going to run on your machine? So it doesn't even bother to initialize.
So it doesn't even, it's not a disabled thing. It doesn't exist on your machine. So it adds like a lot of blockers to that. And that and the control mechanism are two things that need to work together for us to be able to do like true, like invite someone to shoot your turret for you kind of stuff. Because that's what I want.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question.
But yeah, cross-out merge builds are easy enough because it's technically two separate vessels. And
all of that explanation was to say that it would be very easy to merge two things together and just have them go around as one unit. That's fine.
But what we would really want to do is this other thing. Anyway.
Plenty of people shoot my turret. I know, buddy. I know.
Block of like 8 people here.
Yep. We're going to go.
With Taco.
Hello.
Hello again. So,
hi.
In your development process, what are the main things that are like constant pain factors for you? Like, what is it that you...
We didn't have good testing tools until 2 weeks ago.
So, I don't know how much you know about development in general. Like, I don't know your scale. But I'm just going to assume that everybody here is not a game developer.
Yeah, Space Engineer is a server developer, so he'll be in the pain
now,
matrix.
Okay, so this can be addressed to everyone else.
I mean, I don't really do much development of the server. I just
that's perfect.
Make assets and do tools, and occasionally.
So when you do something in a game, in like a proper like big publisher, it's spending like $1 million a day or whatever. It's a big company and it's got vertical integration, whatever. When a system is proposed, what happens is that goes to the senior engineers, and the senior engineers create a test harness, essentially. So when the programmers go and make something, they don't need to compile the whole game, go into game, test the system in game as a player would, and go, this isn't working. I wonder why. I'm going to add some logging to it. And that is so horrifically slow and inefficient. It has cost us years of development time just going back and forth trying to figure things out. What a real game company does is they will build a harness to test out one system flawlessly and perfectly in all cases that it will be involved in. And that's it. They click a button, test to see if it works. It doesn't. Why not? Oh, here, I can fix it. And they don't need to recompile the game again. They don't need to go through the entire process of, as a player would, testing something. Like imagine how you test something in Ramshackle. That's how we need to test it. Up until very, very recently, where I just snapped and I wrote a custom, completely bespoke harness for testing how the ammo system like did reloads and whatever. Like how it does the calculations, what goes to where. Are these guns set up? Like every single weapon in tier 1 has its own test harness set up to see if it can load, fire, and how long it takes to load and fire its weapon at least 3 times. And all of this runs in like a single tick because, of course, it's in a situation where it doesn't need to count on the rest of the game existing. Now, what this means is that you can't test any physics stuff in this case. It's only stuff that is quote unquote stateless. Like you can go to any point of the code and say, okay, what is X equal to Y? And then it just tells you, oh, it worked or it didn't. And that one change has been the most refreshing thing that I could think of. So not having that, I think, would be my answer.
I just need to do that, but for testing fucking multiplayer missions or something. I have no idea how you do that, but anyway.
I can probably set up something for that once I'm a little bit more free. Hopefully that answers your question for me. What do you think, sir?
What was the original question again?
Annoying tools or annoying
Annoying.
part of development?
What are the pain points in development?
I would say probably for me at least. Like so unfortunately in Ramshackle, we've taken kind of a lot of the big things that a lot of dev teams kind of run into. Like we've kind of solved a lot of our big like oh, the save code needs to be is breaking all the time, or the networking sucks, or like we got on top of that very early on. So like those were never pain points in the sense that like, oh, I can't fix them. So for me, I guess, yeah, okay, I got mine. Historically is probably just being
For
stuck.
me, it's trying to get him to talk a like consistent sentence.
Yeah. So it would be being stuck with physics that I can't have access to the source code for in a game. Is
like if you run into a situation of, hey, I have a turret and I want it to turn left, and then that's fine, and then you try to use a pre-existing physics engine, and then it does some like completely whack out stuff. Then you can't reach into the physics code and go,
yeah,
why?
if I can't reach, yeah, it's the fact that you can't reach into it. So
It's just a black
about
box.
the turret jamming.
Yeah, so the turret jamming. Well, that wasn't really a physics issue in the end, right?
No, it was.
Look
It was
how
just
we
a different
fixed
kind
it,
of physics
how we
issue.
debugged it.
Yeah, I had to build a tool, and it's not checked into the project because it has the potential to be extremely problematic for a couple of reasons. But it takes the position of a collider as the server sees it, and it sends it through the pipe to the client and says, "Here's where I see this collider." So if there's a situation where the server spawns something, and your client spawns it in a different way, that's the only way to detect that happened.
Yeah.
And we found there was a physics issue. Like once I realized, oh, it's physics. It's like, wait. So I built a tool to like throw cubes at you. They're like 5 tons to move your turret, and I tested it on the server, and it would unjam you. Like, oh fuck.
Yeah, like that was pretty horrifically painful. Is just the more black boxes that we have to deal with, the less fun that we have with developing and dealing with issues that might be for other developers with their own vertically integrated stack, like not a problem.
Yeah, I'd say for me the last big thing is physics. If I could just like condense like 5 years of my life into like 5 nanoseconds, I would like just make my own fucking physics engine. But
yeah. If it's possible to snap your fingers and just have a totally custom physics engine, then do that. Oh, you could use a bullet physics in Unity. There it is.
Yeah.
The integration of another physics engine into Unity is not something that is simple. We would need to rewrite like half or maybe 75% of the project.
Yeah.
We'll just get Grok to do it.
100% of the project twice after that.
Make no mistakes.
just do it properly. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
That does, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. That was a really good question. Let's see. Do we have someone new on the request? I think Esco. So we're going to be skipping those of you who have already asked a question and come back around to you once we've answered the question of those who have not asked anything yet. Hello, hello.
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 How you doing?
Good. My question would be, is it going to be a feature that there are going to be some kind of reserve vehicles or basically like tier 0 that you can spawn that cost nothing if you lose all your vehicles in a match?
That's
like
so
you
funny that
die
you asked
in
that.
the
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
We had literally this exact same discussion, I think, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Exactly as you're describing, something that is like a guaranteed, you will always be able to bring this, if nothing else, in have it be such a thing that would not be like really abusive to do.
Yeah. So it'd be like a reserve vehicle that is it's one of the starter vehicles. Like it's
rental?
you can't edit it, you can't
Yeah.
It's just
So we get to
a-
decide what it looks like, and it's not going to be that great, but it'll be enough to get you back on your feet.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers my question.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, who is the next new one? I think it's Panzerfauster.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna bring you in, bud. Hopefully he's ready. He is.
Name.
Have there been any further thoughts regarding players making angled pancake cheese min-max
Oh, boy.
designs? Yeah. So wheel spam, large unarmored strut concocted and spaced enough to nearly fully negate an APHD projectile. And are there ideas on adding specific design requirements which could passively result in more realistic looking designs? Apologies, have been asked before, buddy.
No.
If there is one thing that is more discussed than this, I can't remember what it is. Like internally, we are always talking about this exact thing.
This goes back
and-
to 2017 when Muzz made like a wedge and broke
Yeah,
Starrick's mind for like 8 years.
Yeah, the armored mud flaps that made it so that my tracks could not be destroyed from the front, and that put us on a very long road to try to fix that. And the one answer right now that I can give offhand is the turn-in behavior of projectiles is not currently doing anything, and it should be. And what it will mean is when you shoot something that is like a very highly angled whatever, it will ricochet less often, and when it does, it's not going to be just in a straight line. Depending on how much material it actually penetrated on its way through, it'll sometimes dig into builds, which is going to encourage perhaps a bit more realism one way or the other.
And
But
the
this
other
is a
change is
constant.
going to be, the other one that's coming for playtest 3.5, which will probably shake this up a bit, is armor class will be based on like the girth of the plate,
Yeah.
the thickness of it. So you're not going to
That
be able to
is,
have like RHA, these thin 20 mil, 30 mil RHA plates that are classed as heavy armor class and have like 60% mitigation. They'll just fall off. So
I could actually stream that. Give me a sec,
Yeah.
because it is working right now on our upcoming pending update branch. Let me just get in here. Make
For
sure
your
there's
wheel
no
spam question,
stupid stuff.
when traction is real, wheels will hopefully be less.
So hopefully this is coming through.
Yep,
Okay.
I see it.
Okay. Let's see. So if we just pick a random vehicle such as this one, there is a new field on the top right here where it says armor light 1%. And that means it's 1% of the way to getting to a medium armor class plate. And in order to make it a heavier armor class, you increase the thickness. And this has to do with, just imagine the more box-like it is, the more it will tend to be heavier armor class. That's the main thing to take away here. And it will always tell you, you'll always be informed of what's going on, and there's going to be more additions to how the detail summing works here. We're on live right now, you'll only see this top window, but down here you'll be able to see the various stats all scaling together, and this is referring to all of them. So all of these are now heavy, and it shows all heavy. If it's different in any way, then it'll show like a little minus sign. So there's going to be more tools for that.
and then mitigation will also be applied to DEG, which it is not currently.
No, it is in this little test thing. So if I toggle all and only
I
turn
mean,
on
on
armor
live,
deck,
it's not
Yeah.
a thing right now.
so there's going to be more degradation applied to things that are lighter as compared to things that are heavier in armor class, where right now it's based entirely on damage instead of like the actual difference in armor class. So oh, that's funny. The automatic resolution just cleared it. That's what you do to clear it. Anyway, there's a lot of consideration about this exact thing all the time is what we're getting to. And hopefully that answers your question.
Specific design requirements, which would passively that's the entire crew ergonomic system, which will be tuned later. I know there's a bunch of quirks with it.
Yeah, so the spotting system right now kind of just happens on vibes. And when you're looking at stuff and it gets shared for free, so there's no radio station, of course, but there's also no requirement for you to actually have vision ports that are set up near a crewman for them to look through and actually spot things. Like that change alone is going to be pretty huge difference. So you can have a wedge abomination that is open in the back and doesn't have any spotting scopes, and yeah, it'll be good ballistically, but it's going to be blind as a bat. It's not going to be able to call in anything, and not going to be able to do anything. And
Yeah, we'll just turn
only
off your
going to be good
HUD
as
if you're
it
in an
is
armored
ballistically.
box.
Yeah, like there's going to be more and more systems that require having more stuff on it that we are going to hopefully tune in such a way that it does not encourage wedge maxers. But there's always going to be people that build wedges, and this will always be a war that we're committing to.
Oh yeah, balancing for PvP is going to be always like that, which is why we are trying desperately to get fun game modes.
And single player and PvE tends to encourage more like fun designs, because like the first thought people have when they're in a PvP game is how do I get the most advantage over someone else, rather than how do I build something that is personally interesting to me. And some of you won't have that thought. That's cool. There are others among you that do. And that results in these situations of an entire lobby getting wiped out by one guy who thought of something that nobody else is using. Most of you have been guilty of this at one point or another. But hopefully that answers your questions. No specific direct and so when you say specific direct incentive, do you have something in mind? Before we let you save your build, we have to spray you down from machine guns from every angle. Like a car wash.
So if we want it to be like totally draconian, there's like the Gmod ACF shit where it like fires rays at every angle of your tank, and okay, he has 80 millimeters of armor, so he's gonna be classed as a medium. Like that is so autistic. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of out of scope.
Not necessarily, rather having awkwardly shaped modules, which you would need to have and work on. That's already a case with some of the drivetrain. And as we add more to the drivetrain modules, like we spoke of in a early question today, where in the upper tiers, rather than just having engines that are flatly more horsepower, there's going to be modules that increase their horsepower by being connected to them, like superchargers, radiators, and so on. And losing them would not cause you to stop driving. It would cause you to lose power. Just more stuff like that as we go up in tiers. Right now, it's actually kind of barren, the amount of modules that we'd like you to have, which is why the drivetrain modules are overmassed by quite a bit, is that we need that mass to come from somewhere, and that mass is going to be taken up by other modules in the future. I hope that answered your question. I do like the idea of a pressure wash when you're creating like a drop deck to go into a game mode. It says, okay, can this actually be
well, my thought has always been like, actually have the missions sort of not incentivize that type of design. It's very easy to do. It's just you design
like,
the tax, you design the
big flat wedges
environment.
don't do well in hilly terrain.
Yeah, like you design the environment in such a way where you de-incentivize that kind of stuff without just nerfing it directly, like super hard. Which is one of the issues that we've had in the past. Like in a vacuum, it's just like flat 1v1. If we just balanced using that as a metric, the game would become very stale very quickly.
Like the first armored ship designs that fought each other at sea, one was a wedge brick with guns, and the other one was a wedge canister or like barrel with a gun. And they just shot at each other all day because neither could do anything about the other's armor, because they were using weapons from the early age when armor like that didn't exist. And that's kind of the problem we run into when you take every other consideration of a tank out of the question and it's just 1v1 against another tank. The best possible design is a triangle with a big gun, and that's it. And that's kind of boring. So melting that down into just a single statement, like if we try to nerf something very specific, like a wedged brick, that means every light tank that doesn't have like an 80 millimeter front upper plate is not worth using. Like stuff like that I'm worried about.
We need to add value to doing other things than just
So having something that encourages you to drive over terrain that is more involved is also going to require the drivetrain to be not so nerfed. And for it to be not so nerfed, there needs to be a real traction budget. And that's the kind of change that this thinking leads us up around. Like, I'm not doing these drivetrain and traction changes because I think they're neat. I think they're awesome. I love like really, really autistic, in order just to put it into an easy word that we all understand. specific design considerations on like engines and RPMs and transmissions is all awesome, but it's also to nerf brick wedges. Okay, we'll move on to the questions. I think Leha's next.
Then Heto, Ilshik, light modifier.
Okay,
How long do you want to keep this going?
I'm good to keep going for at least another hour.
All right.
If you guys want to end earlier than that, that's fine. So recoilless cannons, center mounter wheels. The masses yearn for the Orc warbike experience. Also mortars, perhaps. I enjoy how silly most propelled more vehicles are. So mortars was something that we discussed quite a bit, and I believe the major cutoff that just stopped any current talk of implementing them was how the ballistic system was implemented. And I talked about this earlier, where sinking a long time of flight projectile is much harder than it has any right to be, especially in a game like this one where we're syncing physics around in such a way that's not so easy like it is in a first-person shooter where you can just teleport somebody like their capsule collider and their model. You can manipulate it super easy. We can't via code apply, okay, this collider needs to actually be over here, actually. No, we need to build what is essentially a physics tugboat to move your soul around in such a way that it does not look like it is being jerked around. But those of you with a poor connection and have driven fast vehicles, you will know what I'm talking about when it feels like something's yanking it around. That's part of this whole thing. So for us to have longer time of flight shells, we need a better synced projectile system, which requires X, Y, Z, W, and everything else. But as for the answer, I think mortars are really cool and fun, especially self-propelled mortars. I want like actual artillery gameplay that is not just like a satellite camera that you click on the ground from, but it like you are a tank and you use the things that you normally have and you shoot and you hit something in the distance according to like what a spotter's telling you. Like maybe you're anti-infantry, maybe you're not even shooting at tanks. Just adding more gameplay opportunities. As for recoilless rifles on like your war bike example there, that's more or less just another type of weapon like the
Yeah,
Ontos
there's nothing
gun.
special about it. Yeah. So
As for centralized wheels, that is something that we can do once I'm done with the traction stuff update. Particularly what allows that to happen would be a tiny little
crew.
Yeah, a tiny little section in the wheel code that essentially keeps it upright using what looks to be like steering, but it's actually, 100 other things going on. It just needs a little bit more specific physics setup to work nicely, because what you see as wheels, they're not wheels. It's all smoke and mirrors and everything. So it's not quite so easy as it might be in another game like Space Engineers of, oh, you just add another model like this because we're just spinning a cylinder, which is why the game runs at 2 frames a second. We're trying to be optimized, but I definitely want to. What do you think, Sarek? Because you're going to be the one that's actually modeling them, because every model in the game is from your hand.
yeah, no, there's nothing like, and actually, we could probably get them to work in even with the current physics, because I think back when we had the traction point kind of shoved underground a little bit on the wheels, there's some players that are able to pretty easily make motorcycles with just the existing wheels, and they kind of auto balanced and stuff, and it was pretty nice. So
That's
just
kind of what I'm
giving
talking about. Like there's small little
giving a wheel,
things.
yeah, like we could probably just add a wheel pretty quickly that just has that, and it wouldn't feel too out of place, providing it's balanced appropriately. But
Because what's going to happen when we implement a wheel that has like a centralized mounting, like on the front of a bike, is people are going to stop putting wheels on the outside of the vehicle, and they're going to be on the bottom, unless we give it some reason for you not to do that. Like maybe it's a light duty wheel, maybe it doesn't as strongly adjust for compression, whatever. So if you're trying to put something heavy on it and run it over terrain, you're going to bottom out constantly. Stuff like that.
But conceptually, there's nothing really stopping us.
Hopefully that answers your questions. All right. Let me know if I'm rambling too much. I'm just having too much fun.
No, it's pretty great.
Will intentional melee, lunge mine, panja drum builds be considered? How would you balance that? Attached to what? Rocket boosters? So
yeah, so when you add infantry, I'm going to add one with a lunge mine. That will be like the first prototype.
Yeah, like they'll pop out of a bit of cover on the ground and lunge mine you. One of our earlier discussions about what could be the map borders was like, what if we did minefields? And
Yeah.
what is a melee weapon if not a close range thing? And what not? What was a mine projector if not a close range thing thrower? So there's definitely room for that. But for the specific application of melee damage, like you might see in Crossout with like the rat builds with the 50 lances on the front,
And that can go
I
invisible.
kind
and
of want to avoid that specific thing going on. Now, in Robocraft, and for those of you who've played the game Persilio, which is a Robocraft but XYZ, there are builds that are essentially just a giant brick of armor with shields on them and thrusters on tracks that have the blades on the front, and that feels a lot more fair to play against in that game because everybody has the opportunity to be pretty maneuverable and, well, you could just shoot them, and it's kind of overwhelming to deal with. So it's a kind of a chicken and the egg problem with the balance of we don't want to overcook it, but if we way undercook it and make it worthless, then it's never going to get developed further and kind of be ignored in the background, which is what happens to a lot of weapons, by the way, which is why I'm a lot of the time really worried about the initial presentation of balance, because nothing is ever going to receive feedback and criticism if it's too worthless to use. So it simultaneously can't be worthless and it can't be too good. And that's a really hard balance to check for something that is like damage based on speed and sneaking up to somebody. And if the traction system works
Or
as intended
rather,
and we
it's
have more
like
hills
it's
and
a
stuff,
niche. It's a niche thing to begin with. Like
Yeah.
that's why like niche features are really hard to balance, just in general.
because there's only going to be a much smaller group of
Yeah.
people playing with it, so you're going to see it way less often, and the people who are using it might be really, really good at it because everybody's using the same tools, and yet I constantly hear about how broken what Ren is doing. And this only compounds when you add more niche systems where people are just not going to interact with them. And what do you mean he can insta-kill me? Like, how do I defend against that? Because I just don't run into it very often. So having stuff that perhaps does not require straight speed to deal damage, maybe it is a contact and grind weapon like the cutting torches kind of are. But instead of relying on a fuel source, maybe it's like a pile bunker. Like you have to deliberately get into the right position and then hit it, and then it's like a reload process rather than just running into them straight, completely, no thoughts, head empty. Like I want to do more interesting things than just explosive on the end of a stick on the end of a Jeep with a rocket booster and an invisibility cloak. And it's just going to take a while, but I do kind of like to do it.
All right.
Let's see. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. Ilshik. Hello. Since it's a developer Q&A and not a Ramshackle Q&A, do you have any side game dev projects? And is there a particular idea for a next game you're personally excited about and would love to make next?
Yeah, so there's a space game.
Yeah. God, that's funny. So, I don't know. Should I tell the story of Space Ramshackle?
Well, the thing is there any other projects that we're working on? No, not at the moment. And to be honest, after Ramshackle, I'm going to take a break from game dev, probably.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
So there is an answer for me, but it's kind of like golly, that sure would be nice to think about. And I've opened a folder and named it, and that's about as far as I got, other than like writing down ideas. So I'm not going to share too many details about it, but I've always really loved the concept of like in Ace Combat 0, like you're flying a flying thing. It doesn't need to be a realistic fighter jet, but they just happen to be. They don't behave like realistic fighter jets. They behave kind of like crazy stuff. And I really love that idea and a dynamic campaign that like reacts to the choices you make. I would personally like for my next game to not be multiplayer because, frankly, I'm over it. I'm good with this one. I think I've had my multiplayer experience, and my next game's not going to have anything to do with multiplayer. It's going to be a much tighter scope project, and it's going to be about something that is particularly just personally fascinating to me, and it's going to have some really esoteric, neat tech behind it, and it's not going to sell any copies because I'm the only person on earth that cares about it. But that's the cool thing about passion projects is that you can take your time with them and do them. But right now, Ramshackle to me is a lifeline into the future. I don't continue to be a developer unless Ramshackle is successful. And now that
Cool
that
stuff.
doesn't mean like Ramshackle needs like 100 million sales or whatever. Like, just very modest and decent, and we can move into the future, and that's fine. That's the whole goal. And if it's a passion project, that's great, but it's also my only plan right now because nothing else has ever worked out. This is the one thing that for me is actually successful. Because I don't like working at McDonald's or anything else. I like being creative
Also, a lot
and
of
do
other
stuff.
like I've had to work at a lot of other dev studios, and it's just
Yeah.
pulling your fucking eyeballs out.
Yeah,
Like,
you're dealing with a lot of drama and HR stuff on like a good day, and on a bad day, you're dealing with somebody who is over your head and over their head in doing anything that you want to do. Like if you want to implement a tiny feature, you got to have 5 meetings or some stuff about it. Like this really bureaucratic nature. Having our own business, quote unquote, as in our own passion project that we can work on as we see fit is so important to each of us individually that I cannot actually describe it fully with words. So to me, a future project is something that happens after Ramshackle is completed, and I don't really have the mental bandwidth to think too much about it, but I would really like to have like a really cool 6 Degrees of Freedom, armored ballistic physics, ace combat like experience as like a single player game. I think that'd be really cool. Hopefully that answers your question. Oh shit! Sorry, I think I cut you off, Invalid, midway through your answer.
Oh, no, I was just gonna set up a Minecraft server and fuck around. That's why I was
Yeah. Okay, Lightbringer.
I guess this ties into traction and modular engines from earlier discussion-wise, but will we be able to have something like modular transmissions or transmission gear ratio edits and final drive gear ratio edits? Because right now we're relatively constrained to our current transmission and drivetrain traction set.
That is
I
the
love
most...
that you asked this. So we had this discussion 5 minutes before the Q&A. And for the longest time, that answer has been no, absolutely not. Not because we hate the idea or we hate the idea of a sprocket or something. No, it's so easy to break everything.
Yeah.
With the current drivetrain system. But once I am done my very near-term oncoming overhaul to how bits of the drivetrain system work, up to and including like transmission, gear ratio, engine interactions, and the traction actually applied to the ground. Like all of these things need to be updated to not be so easily exploitable when you just punch in a funny gear ratio. Then that is when we'll be able to unlock that in a way that has ranges in it. Like you won't be able to set a gear ratio of like 1 to 10 million or whatever. We will still decide what you get to have. And this might be a whole range of ratios that we pre-make for you and then give you stats like what is your expected top speed, acceleration, whatever, with a specific setup. And then when we are ready for it, that'll be more and more greatly expanded. And in the future, this will be something that will be relatively easy to modify either dynamically just from the player's perspective or as a mod in the future if somebody decides I want like torsion track maps for everything and I want it to be super simulator, or another guy thinks I just want like thrusters on frictionless ball bearings and that's how I want the whole drivetrain to feel. That'll be a choice that you can make as a server owner, whether with or without mods.
All right, thank you. It's just right now it seems that we are kind of. I thought it was more a balancing even as to how
the problem
it's about balance.
Yeah, it's a balance thing, yeah. Because like right now, if we unlock like it's like as far as like putting the code in, putting the slider in or whatever, that's like I could do that in 5 minutes. The problem is the drivetrain code can't cope with like it doesn't reflect the gear ratio in the way that actually like intuitively you would think of the way it would work, and it basically allows you to just punch in a gear ratio that like okay, I expect a very low gear ratio or whatever to have higher top speed, so but less torque. But the way the drivetrain system works, you pretty much just would prefer to always put basically the lowest gear ratio you could feasibly have for the power to weight ratio you're running, and like it doesn't
like you would essentially optimize for the highest acceleration and sustained speed that you could tolerate for the weight in a situation where like shifting up or down wouldn't really matter to you. You would just go into first gear and you'd hit 40 kilometers an hour with your 100-ton tank and you would do
Yeah.
it very quickly. Like that is something that in the past we interacted with and went, oh, that's a problem.
Is that why when I glitch out in server, like when the game jerks suddenly, I will watch my gear drop from say 4th gear to 1 and my RPM shoot up to the skies because it's actually disguising like the actual workings of the system, because that's always bugged me.
That's
I
something
like that
else,
interpretation. I really
Yeah,
like
that
that
is-
interpretation. So for comedy reasons, I'm going to say yes, but for technical reasons, no, not even slightly. The UI is telling you what is going on your transmission. So when you see some really wacky stuff happening, that is actually happening. That's not a joke. Those numbers that you see in the RPM output display, those are the numbers that are being worked
But
in.
on the
the,
server,
drivetrain.
it's completely different because
Yeah.
the client, like, the transmission state is not synced. So
It's not deterministic in a way that would like
yeah, so
be
like
possible to sync.
if you
so...
see your transmission freaking out on a server client side, that's just your like because you got jerked around or whatever. Your drivetrain on your client got messed up, but your client drivetrain isn't actually what's driving the tank. That's what's happening on the server, and
Yeah.
that's doing just
And-
fine. Like it's in gear 4, it's happy, but like
this is part of something
Yeah.
that we talked about way earlier, where in order to make the game feel better, like I got a question in the general chat a couple days ago of like, hey, I drive fast vehicles in War Thunder, it's fine with a high ping, why can't you guys do it? Well, there is no local simulation of your own vehicle aside from like the basics, and that's for a couple of reasons, but the main one is keeping things rationally synced and stuff, because the netcode before was just not robust enough to fully handle that. Like it's not that we need to
it got
rewrite the
close.
netcode
It
part.
just couldn't.
Yeah.
It couldn't get that final mile where we could like really trust it.
Yeah.
You know,
So this will be something that we're working on in the short term as well. Like I am of the opinion that it is one of the most important things to work on is just the feeling of driving and going fast. Like there's that famous quote about Mario 64, it should be fun to jump around in a empty room. And that's for like a 3D platformer from a long time ago, but I still think it applies to all games that I play. I have the most fun when I can do all sorts of stuff just in an empty space and nothing's going on in there. So making the driving feel really responsive and nice and fast and interesting, I personally find that to be really important.
All right. Do you mind if I just add a little tiny bit to this transmission thing as a question?
Yep.
Will there be more transmission variety?
So
We only have like fixed one type of transmission per tier right now.
Yeah. Short answer, yeah, there will be.
yeah,
All right.
this is one of the artifacts of it just taking time to implement more modules and balance them properly and correctly, because there's no sense at all in implementing more transmissions right now, since the transmission code is in such a state that it's always going to feel wrong.
Yeah. So, and also just in general, like I know, like from this is just a general observation. When we went from itch, so the alpha version, the itch version was kind of just like that was full like passion project. We could work on anything. We had no like like there was direction, but like we could kind of just jump around. There was no like and when we switched to Steam, kind of put a like subconscious rule in place that like anything that's in the game right now is something that we actually want to like develop and make better, and like we don't want like there might be a few like edge cases of systems that are in the game currently that should need some updates, of course, but like we cut out a lot of modules of like these are half-baked modules and we want to spend more time on these modules. We're not going to have them sit in the Steam version in this like half-baked form.
Yep.
You know, we'll take them out, we'll give them some love, and then they'll come back in a later version. And a lot of things like transmissions and a lot of other systems were kind of put on the back burner in that like, okay, let's just get a basic version of them into the Steam version that is at least presentable and functions and is made, we can balance, quote unquote, and then we can kind of, once we have the capacity, we could go back and either rework the system if it needs reworking, or add to it. If we feel like tracks, for example, I'm pretty happy with like, okay, not necessarily the traction stuff related to that, but that's across the entire game. But like tracks, as far as like how you interact with them and how they're implemented, is quite nice. Like I'm perfectly comfortable adding more tracks to the game. I'm perfectly comfortable adding more cannons to the game. Perfectly comfortable adding more like um, engines to the game. Because those systems are like they're mostly there, but like transmissions, not so much because there's so many issues with them. Wheels, not so much because there's some issues with them that we need to like get on top of. So yeah, smokes got removed.
Yeah, there's a couple systems that are they were deeply liked by players, but in the way that they were implemented, it was not something that we could add to, which would mean that there's just these islands of stagnation all the way through the modules. Because in order to actually properly work on them and fix them up and make them nice to use, so we can copy paste that system onto other modules with different stats and different characteristics, we would just be copying around the same problem, and it would just get bigger and bigger and bigger. The smokes are a good example of this because of the way that the particles were implemented meant that anyone without a decent machine was going to slow to a crawl trying to render them just because of how overdraw works. So there needs to be a unique system to deal with that in such a way that is not so laggy. And those of you who play with wheel dust oft know that it is much less laggy, even though I bent way over backwards optimizing that system. So it only uses 2 particle systems where it used to be a particle system per wheel. And that's really bad. And okay, why don't you just make it like other games do? Because we, frankly, are just doing things other people aren't. And that leads to a few issues, and smoke is one of them, where once it is implemented correctly, it'll have its own unique shader that is something like dithered, and for low-end players to be able to turn it way down to the point where it's just a gray sphere that blocks vision, down to the minimum possible thing that we can render in order to get the same effect, even on ultra-low quality. Just for the those in the back that have a poor machine, but we don't want to do the War Thunder ultra low quality thing that turns it into like something that looks like Roblox, so you can hyper fixate on stuff because visual noise distracts you and all that other cancer stuff. So there's a broad range of things that we need to go through before implementing something even as simple as smokes.
Then we do it again when we change the rendering engine.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question why we don't have more things on modules that we consider to be incomplete.
It answered the question for transmissions for me very well. I hope to see the changes in the future and all the things that are needed to make transmissions better to actually implement it.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good. So to clarify light modifier, it's only using 2 particle systems that are very, very tightly tuned to be as efficient as possible, as opposed to 1 particle emitter per wheel, which was way worse. But yes, if you want a more consistent gameplay experience, I'd recommend turning off wheel dust, because that the whole thing needs to be cleaned up in the future. All right, next question.
Oh, I wanted to add on to the previous question.
And on to the previous question as Taco asks his question.
Just for like what I would want to do after Ramshackle, like you guys were talking about making a game, I'd want to get into more. I thought about it. I definitely want to get into more server stuff, hardware stuff. Maybe like the whole building Skynet thing they're doing out right now, data center job. That'd be cool.
Yeah, plugging cables into boxes is just mentally satisfying. Anyway.
Yep. Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, cable management, if you get it right, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, or it
And if
fries
you get it
up the
wrong,
hard
that's what
drives.
case panels are for.
So you have spent a lot of time working on Ramshackle, all the related things in it, several years now. If you had the opportunity to start over from scratch, what would you do differently and what would you do the same?
Oh fuck. So learn Git before starting anything.
Yes.
Like,
no more zip
not
files
GitHub as
through
in
Discord.
Oh, I wish. Our initial syncing system was some abominable stuff. Your first task as a developer should always be to have some kind of backbone or framework for storing changes into the future and sharing them with other developers. Everything else comes second. That is the lesson that I would take back in time.
How long were you operating without any version control?
4 years.
Oh,
And it wasn't no version control, it was worse. It was Unity version control through Unity Collab. Ugh. And those of you who have not used it, you have a better version of life than I do, as far as I'm considered. That shit was some of the worst stuff imaginable. Like, imagine a file change system that is sequential. So it goes like, oh, this is push number 454, but I want to go back to push 300. That means I'm sitting there clicking 200 times on the go back, and every single time it downloads the entire step, compiles it, and sets it up again. It imports everything over again. You don't have the ability to go back to a specific step unless you go to the website and wait a couple hours to click through a bunch of stuff and finally get like a 20-part zip download of whatever version that you were looking for. And in order to actually import it in the project, it's going to take that next giant step. So I hope you know what file you're looking for, and it wasn't just some state of the project that you're trying to get back to. That was way worse than just having Git files or through like a Google Drive or something. It was horrible.
Then we had one guy that knew Git a little bit. It deleted everything because he didn't set it up right.
Yeah, well, we set it up right, but there was a Windows moment that caused it to have a giant problem. But yeah, we used a self-hosted Git just because we didn't want to spend any money at all. And that's another thing that I probably use it as advice. Just assign some money. It could be $500 to $1,000. Just save up for like $1 for 2 whole years. Just have some amount of money to assign to this hobby as a way to make it not so horrible. And this could be anything from like buying software, because yeah, pirated software will do great for you just fine for a long time, and then one day it will not, and you are going to regret that because you will have learned entirely on this pirated software, and it might not even be possible to get that software in the future. So buying software or using free software like Blender or whatever instead of Maya 3D, that would be another example for me, because I was using Maya 3D for years and years and years through a trial license and everything else. And eventually I just couldn't use it anymore, and I couldn't move to Blender easily without wasting a whole bunch of time learning Blender because all I knew was Maya. So just sit down and stick with tools that you can actually utilize into the future.
Yeah, I would say, establish your workflows as quickly and like run them through the gauntlet. Like, the faster you can figure out the workflow that you're actually going to use to develop the game. So in the case of like version management, that's a workflow. As far as like, what's the process of getting like an idea from my head into a model, then texture it, then get it into the game, like that whole flow, you need to like nail that down. Like having any discontinuities in that or changing that all the time, it basically makes going back and make, like, if I want to make a change on a model, like, I went through and like made the turret rings, like took the octagon off the turret rings and just made them circular. That took me 5 minutes because I knew the workflow. I could just go straight, like this step, cut off the ring, edit the UVs. I didn't even need to redo the UVs, redo the texturing or anything like that, and just plonk it in. Like, but if I didn't have that workflow set up and I had that like regimented, I save this step and then I create a copy of the Blender file, and then I have this other step for when I do this other stuff, and it's just like back in the day, if it's just one big Blender file or something like that, I would have to start it completely over if I wanted to do that, right? So figuring out those steps, and that could apply to anything, like how you set up your code frameworks and stuff. I would say we have this thing in the project. It's called the Rem interloop. It's just an internal name.
Yeah.
The fact that is not built into fucking Unity is just sickening to me.
Oh my god. Yeah, so to be really, really specific about this, there's a lot to get into, so we're going to skip that. Now, the really short version is there's different points in time, every frame, that you can update code logic, and that's update, late update, fixed update, and something else, I think? Or is that it?
There's like on GUI, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few other things, but that's it. So everything that runs on that particular update call is going to run every time that update call comes through. And if you need it, that's great. But if you don't need it, and you don't need it, it's going to run logic way too fast, way too often, and you're going to tune everything based off of something updating as fast as it can every frame. And you're going to run into problems with like, oh, my frame rate's different and things just don't work the same, or my frame rate is low and I can't test anything in the editor because it's too low to have things work, which was a problem for a long time with the welding system. If your frame rate was too low, you would just explode on spawn. So implementing the interloop, as we call it, is something that is hooked up to this update cycle, but everything else is subscribed to it as a manager. So it says, okay, function call number 1 from script 87, it's your turn to go, and then it queues up every other thing that's behind it to properly phase the work across that frame, because you as a player, you're only going to notice things if they take longer than about 16 milliseconds on like the very shortest end. Up to around 480 milliseconds we can get away with like deferring things, especially with latency. So it is capable of spreading work across a frame in a way that does not require us to implement it for every single script. It just hooks onto the slot in time that it is allowed, and it runs its logic for the amount of time that it is allowed, and then it is either paused or like allowed to go, and it defers something else. Like the whole point is to reduce constant always on load on everything, especially CPU time, from everything just calling update when it doesn't need to. Like your headlights don't need to update every frame, but if we didn't implement the system, it would. Right now they I think it's like 15 times a second or something. Like there's a bunch of things where we just define how often we want it to run, and it runs that amount of time. And it is so, so nice. And I wish we had it way, way earlier.
These
Surprised
skills.
you don't have something for, you know, scheduling updates to happen across multiple frames as opposed to
Yeah.
just on every. That's crazy.
It's just not a thing out of the box, and it's insane. Like you can go onto the Unity store and buy something, I guess, but if you do not make something in game development, you're going to run into a few problems really fast, such as, why is this system doing this? I don't know. Oh, let me go look into it and try to change something, and it breaks everything. Like if you count on stuff like that from the asset store, things that are like the backbone to your project, you're going to have a bad time.
Providing you don't spend the time to actually figure out what it's doing.
Correct. And then at that
Yeah.
point, you're at the knowledge level of, I could just make my own system that is like this, and you have obviated the point of buying something to save time.
Modding a
Right.
scriptable game was very transformative, because I could see how bad it was, kind of, even though I didn't know scripting. But I guess the pipeline is starting as a modder for some game, preferably one with scripting.
I didn't find the transition from FreeCAD to SolidWorks too bad, but
So let's see. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Get worried about rambling. OWO.
Yes.
Hello, hello.
That would be me. Hello. I joined a little bit late, so I risk asking redundant questions here.
That is fine.
So if that is the case, just feel free to skip them. But the first one, a little bit of a multi-parter. It's in regards to the inspiration of this game. And a question for all of you is, what, if any, similar games did you guys play in the past? I heard a few mentioned, such as Robocraft, but...
Okay, so the sins of Free Jam start in 2013 when they released the first Robocraft alpha. And it was so cool. Like this was before wings even existed. So you'd have like weird thruster sticks, and you couldn't like bind your thrusters at all. So people would have like these strange control, like spinning, whatever. It started like a revolution of autism.
Absolutely.
And then
Myself,
it all got ruined.
I built flying balloon snipers relatively early, I remember. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
At risk of turning this into a Robocraft reminiscence seminar, yes, Robocraft happened to be one of them, at least for myself and Invalid. And Starrick played too, way back when.
Yeah, for me it was be Robocraft, Crossout, lots of World of Tanks, lots of War Thunder.
Yep.
For
I
me,
don't
All
know
right.
if
Like,
there's any
we-
other standouts. KSP.
oh yeah,
Yeah, KSP definitely.
ASP multiplayer.
Yeah.
We tried.
We
Back when we were
tried,
playing it, it was not usable at all.
Nope.
A little bit janky, but impressive.
Besiege.
I never got too much into Besiege or Gary's mod. I know Muzz did.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Gary's mod, Wire Tool, G Combat, Expression 2 on servers way back when like people building robot wars or like BattleBot like servers way early on, like I think it was like Gary's Wars or something. Like that was like a very early building in a fighting other player game is the coolest thing imaginable, and I wish there was more of this. But at the time, that was the only thing that existed. This was way before Gary's Mod. This is like 2008, or way before Gary's Mod, way before Robocraft. That's what I meant to say. This is like
It's before
2008.
Gary's
Like this,
Mod.
what? It was before itself. Oh, it's before Gary's Mod 13 anyway. The experience of playing World of Warships and falling in love with how detailed the damage model for a lot of things could be, and then watching them from the point of releasing the beta to the point where they removed
Carriers.
aircraft carriers being able to do RTS controls. Watching them ruin the game from those 2 points was very transformative for me mentally, because I went from, this is one of my favorite games to play, I love playing it, not as a carrier player, because I just think that's a particular cool thing that exists, but as a battleship enjoyer that would be very aggressive, go up front, not shoot long range. And then it was all ruined. So it became very ingrained in my mind that the only way I would ever be satisfied with the balance of a game is if I had it by my hands around its neck. It can only be the way I decide. And that came from that point in time. And that really encouraged me to think about gameplay systems, not from the perspective of, I wish this gun did more damage or it shot flatter, but to think laterally about why certain systems are the way they are or are not. So I guess I'm saying all the wargaming products told me it's possible to make a fun game accidentally.
Yeah.
And it's very, very easy to ruin it by fixing it, quote unquote.
For me,
Yeah.
I liked the simulation of Supreme Commander, where wreckages would persist and they would contribute to the battle.
Yeah.
Like I based the whole wreckage, like a unit doesn't actually die right now, it just turns into a wreckage. It's still networked, and you can resurrect it with your crane. Like I fully intend on expanding on that.
Yeah, like a
Ooh,
necromancer
that would
class,
be
if you will.
cool.
Yeah.
Economies fueled by wreckages, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Robot Arena, there's another one, Robot Arena 2. That was something I played way too much of. And it gave me the inspiration of physics are really cool and awesome, and these guys have no idea what they're doing. Wow.
Then we get to space engineers.
Yep, and the same thought applied.
Yeah.
We actually built an entire like locally hosted server thing where we played Robot Wars and BattleBots on it, didn't we, Stark?
Yeah.
Like with flippers and pneumatic rams and like spinners and all these things. We built them with like small ships and space engineers before there's even planets. We used artificial mass and said you could have like 6 artificial mass blocks or whatever, and just built to rules. Like just designing game modes and gameplay from any physics-based building game that we can get away with making until we finally decided, okay, we've got enough to put this into something that's really cool into the future. And I really started drafting up the ideas for Ramshackle that I had about the module system, which was my primary focus at the time. Like how do we make a game like this interesting?
Show the
Well, you
concept
can.
art. If you have.
No, it's somewhere in a closet
Yeah,
somewhere.
I think.
But it was just like sketches in a little notebook of what is essentially like a brick wedge box with an engine and a fuel tank and some other stuff in it, like a battery or whatever. And like there's lines going around and connecting stuff saying, oh yeah, the engine charges the batteries, which do some other stuff. And we ended up with Space Realm at the time because we were not experienced enough to like make anything with ground stuff. So we figured, oh, we know space already from like Space Engineers. Like we understand how this should feel in a 6 Degrees of Freedom combat game. And that's where we went into first. And it turns out that's not actually a big market. Like most people don't care about that.
Yeah, and as Keen expanded their scope by adding planets and torpedoing the game for about 2 years, okay, then Ramshackle went to the ground, which does expand the market, but it does take longer.
Did they go over World of Tanks, Robocraft, War Thunder, Eskrem, Matchmaker when they talked about game modes? I think we could talk about the the matchmaker as like its own question entirely. Like that's a
Yeah.
big thing that we can get into. So we'll touch on that as a
Yeah.
question later. But to just finish your set of questions off for what is our inspiration, it goes back a while, and most of it comes out of frustration one way or another of watching games that we
Righteous
liked
fury.
getting kind of ruined or just stagnating like War Thunder is currently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A long list of very relatable games. This I recently played on both the
Yeah.
Space Engineer server and modding Subcom and stuff like that myself. So
Subcom modder.
Uh,
Wow.
this is fun to hear. So in a little bit of a sidetrack, but my second question is more in regards to servers, as I have like a good solid group of friends who enjoy these kinds of games. Is there like a peer-to-peer sort of on the agenda, or like opportunity to self-host servers or anything like that?
You can
It's funny that you
self-host
asked
a
that.
Yeah, you can self-host a server right now. It's a pain. I'm working on an admin panel that'll come probably in a few months. Useful features is like being able to right-click and join a friend on Steam and just join their server. That is
Oh yeah,
very soon, I think, at least for the official server. But
Very
yes, I
cool.
fully intend on having a tool set to where you can replicate pretty much everything for your own community. Like,
Yeah,
I
like the
liked
idea would
that.
be you would get a window and you would just have all the defaults that we have at the official server. Every update we push out, if you use the default presets, it just creates a direct clone of how the official server is set up. And then you can go into various configurable settings in there as we develop the game and add more either modding or configurability. So if you decide that the camera should be one way or the other, or some specific detail about balance should be one way or the other, you'll be able to do that in the future. But in the shorter term, if you just want something for just you and your friends, that is something that you could accomplish it right now after a bit of setup and pain. There have been people that have been running their own servers.
Yeah.
So
There is a setup
it is
guide in
possible.
the Steam guides. It's pretty much up to date. You can just follow that.
Yeah. But if you're not in the position to host a server like that, like you can't port forward for whatever reason, like I know some people can't, like I currently can't because my stupid router got an update and they removed it from their configuration. Like, there's people like that, and that's fine. And having the ability to run what is called like a listen server off of your own game, if you just want to play co-op with a friend, like that should be a feature in the future that we do want to do. It's just not right now a focus, but soon.
Cool. So my third and I suppose final question is what?
No, it's fine. You might as well ask. What's your third and final?
Oh, I'm mostly about NPC allies. So I noticed that in a match I can sort of jank the NPCs to have my own tank as their loadout, and I'm wondering, is there a plan to expand upon this further?
Yes,
Or
absolutely. So right now the current problem is that it sucks. And the major subsystems that are required to make a more interesting version of the system currently do not yet exist in a way that would be applicable. So for this kind of thing in the near future, there is going to be a lot of work done on the game mode that will be being played on the official server, where you will have your own company of units, a battalion, essentially a drop deck, where you show up with a pre-planned set of builds in such a way that it is balanced. So you enter the battle with such and such an amount of value and weight and whatever of a certain amount of vehicles. And those will be the units that you can draw from to spawn in a AI unit that is just for you, so long as there's space available. Otherwise, this will be something more of like you submit designs to a common pool that the AIs can use in cases where they're spawning themselves. But the idea is that you don't just set the entire team to be your whatever, but your personal AI companions will be something that follow your orders. So you tell them to go capture, they go capture. You tell them to hang around, they hang around, and they'll be you and yours.
so
that
is
is
there
something that
like
we expand on in that way.
something like you program your own AI, like I don't know, in FTD. That's one game that would do it.
So
or just
not
Not
like
exactly,
that.
no.
It would more be like you could spawn units that follow your orders that we set up ahead of time. Like I understand it's frustrating to watch the current AI drive. I'm working on it. Don't worry. We don't want players to be put in the position of needing to deal with some kind of configurable AI system to do whatever. We just want the AI to do what it's told, and you tell it to do stuff when you tell it to do stuff, and it accomplishes that, and that's that. In the future, there might be some room for like a configurable AI in terms of its behavior for a game mode that is set up properly to do that, like a AI only battles where it's like you set certain weights and certain
Where the
characteristics and
skill
whatever that I
expression
give you.
is how you set up the AI. Like
Yeah,
that's
so this
that-
could be like standardized builds that both people use, and they make their own AI. That could be its own game mode entirely, just changing values and then throwing them in. And it's like watching like a pit fight or whatever, but ethical. And I think
Yeah.
that's really fun.
I play certain games that are like that, and I find that to be quite enjoyable. So
So
Thank
we're getting
you
a bit long
for-
here. Hope that answered
Yeah.
your
Need to
question.
move.
yeah, appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time, and sorry for taking a bit long.
That's okay. Let's not answer multiple questions.
remember one question at a time. You can just
Yeah.
come back and raise your
I
hand
kinda
again.
rolled
We'll
in.
get a So
They
it's
were
fine.
good questions though.
I think it's kind of with the next question. Are sport roles going to be viable as far as gameplay is concerned? Like, if I were to make a reload and rearm vehicle, would that eventually be a viable way to earn XP and points for the team? So yes, I'm just going to answer
Yep.
that outright.
Yep.
That is the intention, to allow like driving Logi in
Voxel.
Foxhole. Yeah, that was the only thing I found fun at all in that game, because I don't like isometric views. I'm sorry, but I really love driving around with a box load of explosives down to the front. Like, that was awesome. I think that's cool, and I know there's other people out there who think the same thing. And if that was something that was viable to do to your team, that would be genuinely helpful, then that'd be great. Because I know right now some of you run so few shells that you are going back to base most of the time. But if you're in the front line doing fighting and stuff, wouldn't it be cool if another player walked up and said, "Hey, would you like an ammo refill?" Because I think you would enjoy that, even if they're not helping you shoot people, and they get an XP bonus out of it, and then you get to keep out in the front. Hopefully that answers your question.
Next is
One another thing if possible. We're gonna make a habit of it. Hetto first. Hello, hello. Bit more of a dev question. I see that there's 2.4 thousand open tickets on GitHub. I know they have to be each manually closed. I hope the game is healthy-ish. How to interpret this many open tickets? Yes, and valid.
okay.
How
So
do we do such a thing?
each ticket. Okay. Everything except 600 are crash reports that are automatically sent when people get the crash report button. I just use those as scrape logs. I set filters and I exclude the crash report one. That's how I look for issues. Ones that are more than like 3 months old are probably already fixed by now. I just haven't got around to closing them.
Yep.
And it's just a useful thing to look at.
So we'll be cleaning that up as we go here in the near future, because that is quite the backlog. I agree.
And any sort of
Yeah,
open
most
source
of-
project will have this.
Yeah, most
we're
of
not
them are
open,
probably
yeah.
solved. It's just we haven't bothered to close them.
Hopefully that answers your question. All right. Next up. We've been up for 3 hours now, right? Yeah, geez. We might want to think about closing this down at some point. What are you guys feeling?
Yeah, let's end at Bayorex.
Yeah, so we'll take Bayorex here and then probably end off for the day. I know I'll keep talking forever, but I can hear my voice going. And I know you all just love hearing me squawk and screech, but losing my voice might not be a good idea.
Just another transmission question. I know currently people have been experimenting with the hydraulics to make these sort of janky indirect drive systems, mechanically non-linked by gears. Will we potentially see something like an electric drive or hydraulic drives or anything that involves that type of complexity where, like, say, with modern cross-drive transmissions, you have two inputs, one from the engine and one off a hydraulic pump that allows for that variable neutral steer and regenerative steering?
Funny you asked that. So not too long ago, there was alternators and electric drives in the game, but for multiple reasons that essentially all rhyme with the drivetrain system couldn't really handle having the way it was set up. We removed it to work on it, and the hydraulic system is kind of like an in-place replacement for what we intended with the electric motors and the alternators. For a electric drive where you have an engine driving a generator or just a big battery, whatever, we can do that, I guess, like a Tesla tank. We need to do the drivetrain fixes first before we think about implementing that again, because the hydraulic pump right now has its own issues that indicate to me that re-implementing the electrics over it is not going to be a good idea, like we
Yeah.
talked about before, where we don't want to build on bad. We want it to be good first and then expand.
Yeah.
So it will be in the future. That is our intention. I love the idea of, every kind of drivetrain that you can think of. I think they're cool, especially if they are appropriately tiered and priced. Like, it might be more inconvenient to use something with a drive shaft and engine, but maybe it is significantly cheaper. So you're paying for the packaging and the ease of use and the ability not to have a drivetrain connected to everything via using electric motors on the wheels or whatever, by the inherent extra cost involved in doing that and the extra vulnerability on the inside of the vehicle around those points, rather than having all the vulnerability in one spot that can be armored, like having trade-offs and stuff that are considered and designed rather than exploited relentlessly.
And for the
Hopefully
second part,
we need
because
keywords.
no, sorry, I was just expanding on the neutral steer and the hydraulics.
Okay, just the neutral steer.
Yeah, because I understand with like the way that steering works within Ramshackle right now, it's closer to very early type transmissions where you're effectively, if you're outside neutral steer, you're not sending power to other track. You're kind of almost braking it. It's like a fixed radius turn. You lose speed.
So
in
that's
turn.
not accurate.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, so the way that steering turns were implemented was with an axe poorly. And in order to appropriately implement it like you were thinking, the transmission and drivetrain changes will need to go through, because the reason it's like this right now is if it's not like this, it turns the game into a bit of an air hockey game where everybody could just go a bajillion miles an hour because they hit some like weird edge case. So it needs to be weird, slow, boggy, and not completely functional. Because in third gear, on the 4-speed tanks transmission, I believe, if you have the debug window open, you'll actually notice that it is sending power to both tracks, but because of the way that it is redistributing the amount of power going around, and I think it might actually be just like a math sign issue in one spot, multiplying something instead of dividing, but that's something I just discovered like 2 days ago. So I haven't really fully investigated it, but there's some problems in it that is not quite right, and to make it feel quite right at the moment would cause more issues than it would solve. But it is what I'm testing for when I'm making these changes, is this exact thing you are talking about.
Yeah, but there is the transmissions do work where it is trying to send torque to both tracks.
It's just not
in like
onto third
different
gear.
gear ratios. It's just not. It's not working right.
Yeah, unless you turn steer dampening all the way up, and that makes so that you can't turn because of how it's implemented.
Yep.
It's just a few little problems.
It's getting weird impressions because I found that a wheel build generally retains speed very well as it would in real life, but track builds right now just suffer greatly for turns. I thought, oh, it must be not regenerative steering right now in the implementation. So I was just mistaken due to the weird implementation then.
Yeah, it's a bug, not a feature, the way it works right now, and it's what I'm working on right now. I promise.
All right, thank you. It's just I thought it wasn't working like a regenerative transmission.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll move on then. All right,
last.
Bayo Rex.
Bayo. And to end it, maybe the Patreon thing, sir?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. We'll end with a discussion about the Patreon thing that we're going to be getting to. Once again, I'm asking about first-person tanking. So there's a few problems with it, and the major one is I made changes to how the camera rig work, and it needs to be properly put together, because the way that the first-person setup right now works means that it's just not going to work out, and it wasn't very good the way it was implemented. It was just kind of like a gimmick, but I love the idea of first-person tanking because I think it's cool. I would never force people to use it, but if it is something that is put in and we can support it a little bit better than how it exists currently, like if there's a vision port, maybe we use like a picture-in-picture trick to project it. Like I want to do stuff like that. It's just out of scope for now, but I really, really like it.
We'll be able to incidentally support it in the future, as like the spotting mechanics for viewports.
Yep.
If it's a
So
cool
hopefully
thing.
that
Anyway.
answered your question.
All right. What's this? That is Operation Flashpoint. Wow.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right. What have we got
so
with the
we're
Patreon?
Closing down the Q&A now. To those who have supported the Patreon, thank you very much. You are directly contributing to server upgrades or repairs. And we'll be adding a what's the right thing I use for tax deduction reasons? A benefit. Yes, show him, Sarah.
Oh, shit. Uh, that one. Ta-da!
All right.
Behold.
Hats. Wow.
Everyone loves hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in my tinkering of the back end of like the Steam API and all that, I like that tutorial cap. That'll just be one that's given to you when you complete the tutorial for the first time, because I can tie that to a Steam achievement. These other ones, like the tiers, like the hard hats, like the quartermaster tier, and every subsequent tier will get the previous tier's hats. They'll just be little toggles you can toggle on the crew. Not functional. They don't add any armor. As for survivability, no. Oh man, that looks so cool on a commander crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just a little thing.
And then another like thing for the Patreon, like we'll probably should put this down officially like on the Patreon page. So one of the things we're not going to do with Patreon members is like we're never going to restrict access to like an early build. Like the Patreons will never have access to an early build. We're not going to do that.
It's kind of productive
and
because we need the most people testing.
yeah, we need
Yeah.
a lot more people testing and stuff, so it just doesn't make sense. So and yeah, like obviously there won't be any like restricted modules that actually like have stats and stuff. Like obviously like a funny decor item or paint or something would be fine, but we're not gonna have like, you know, oh, you have access to an engine or something. I don't know.
There'll never be
Um,
anything unique that you can't have. Like you will be able to have a hat. It'll just be the tutorial unlock hat and any other achievement hats that we have in the future.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have like a unique hologram that is super cool or whatever, or just some insane stuff that only Patreon people get. That's not going to ever happen.
So
Holographic
Anyway.
decoy tank. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little thing I've been working on. Thank you very much for helping out the project. We like money. Thank you.
What? No, it's just it's a way because like we could dump the game into early access like tomorrow if we wanted
Yeah,
to.
we could catch out.
And be done. Like we don't want to do that though. So it's like how can we support the game in a way that allows us to keep working on it and not feel like we have a gun to our head?
Well, K Machine offered a shotgun, so we could.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, especially like the support. So if people have any qualms about Patreon, like they, for one reason or another, don't want to support us through Patreon, having another service available like Ko-fi or any
Yeah,
other
look into
specific
Ko-fi.
thing, just let us know, and we'll look into it and make it happen, and we'll grant you the same rewards that the Patreon guys are getting, just through some other method. if you want to support us, we want to give you at least a small token of something that you can have, because that feels right, and we'd really appreciate it.
See, add a button that just takes people's money from their account. That's the Steam Marketplace. We'll get into that later. Hopefully never.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Oh yeah, loot crates, epic loots, right?
Yeah,
Right?
I think we should talk about who assisted us with the creation
Yeah,
of hats,
yeah.
because this isn't something that we took development time to do.
Oh yes.
Because we're very focused on making like the game work. So we actually had some helpers.
Yeah, and I have a feature well, I guess for everyone who wants to. There will now be a model exporter in the game next patch, in the debug menu, where it lets you export a blueprint. It would still need some cleaning up in Blender or whatever, but it would let you like 3D print a tank if you're really dedicated.
Like just some way to take stuff that's in the game and send it out. And this will also allow players to send us models just according to criteria that we set up, because this has been super successful. Just people that want to make stuff with our semi-modeling engine part of the game, we might as well turn around and re-implement these things. So
And then, yeah, special thanks to Kick-Ass Kyle for making the hats. And also all of the like trucks and all the tack units, all of that is
yes,
Kick-Ass. Yeah,
it's all him. He's doing
So-
such a good job. And it has really allowed us to accelerate a lot of the testing and development of a lot of systems we would have needed to wait a long time for. And for that, we are very thankful.
Yeah, for white box models, it is super convenient and fast.
Like it looks like everything that you can already build in the game. It's perfect.
Yeah.
There is a keybind that crashed the game. It's Alt F4.
Yes, that is because that was the example truck that I used to kind of,
Yeah.
I'll just grab that off of the workshop.
Keybind and crash other people's games. Enough machine guns. Left click. Let's see. Was there anything else?
I think that's it. Was there any? So yeah, for those who are late joiners, we're currently got our head deep into the playtest 3.5 update. It's gonna be a bigger balance update. It's gonna have a bunch of mechanic changes and fixes and stuff. Though, like I said, we're gonna be switching to a more like just
When it's
constantly open playtest that we're going to be constantly pushing updates to. The access is always open, and we'll just have these like marker updates, like bookmark updates, like 3.5 or 4 when they're ready, when they make sense. But we'll, in that meantime, we'll still be pushing like fixes and stuff. Or if I happen to finish, a couple models or a couple assets and get them into the game, and like it, I'll just push it an update. I won't wait for the next one, if it makes sense. So we kind of how we pushed updates back in the itch days, if you all remember those.
Yeah, Panzerfaust reminded me that there's one last thing to talk about that I did want to touch on after you're done.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, just a much more like smaller bite-sized chunk updates instead of like grouping everything to these massive updates, because it was the main reason we did it that way at the beginning of Steam was because A, switching over to Steam changed everything, and B, like just on how we did the pooling of players and stuff, so we could like get a fresh sample size of players like all at once, and that was super useful when we're trying to like transfer everything over. After playtest 3, it became not very useful anymore because it's just like we're kind of choking out on feedback, right? So we're going to be hopefully just going back to kind of more smaller incremental updates as we actually have them. Yeah.
All right. And we'll
Yes. So the matchmaking question. Right now, there's no matchmaking. Why is there no matchmaking? Stark, would you like to take a little bit of that?
Yeah. So there's no matchmaking, both really in the game mode side or even in the match prep side. The oh my god. I'm trying to
First, you
think
need a
how
deployment, drop deck.
yes. So way back when, so there was the ability where you just spawned in one vehicle. You would select a vehicle, right? You hit the queue match, and it would. There was actually a matchmaker because the matchmaker knew what vehicle you're queuing up in, because you could only queue up one vehicle. It would then create a match. It could actually matchmake other players because it knew what vehicle you're running. But the thing is, once you got into the battle, that was your vehicles, World of Tanks style, World of Tanks, World of Warship. You got the one vehicle. You drove around, you die, you have respawning maybe in the game mode, whatever, but you just had that one vehicle to use. In that context, we used to have matchmaking in that environment, but when we switched to the idea of like, okay, you load into a battle, and then you could pick any of your vehicles in your lineup, or in your garage, really, and you could spawn in, you could swap vehicles all day long and stuff like that, and players could like hot join. Like, we didn't have hot joining for the longest time, so once you committed to a match, like, you have to see that match out to its completion. You can't get back into it if you disconnect it, or players can't late join or anything like that. So we kind of abandoned the concept of a matchmaker when we switched to the whole, like, you can swap to any vehicle and the match is allowed for like players to join seamlessly. And this was a deliberate choice because we're like thinking like, okay, if we could have the hot joining, we could have you could swap to any vehicle, like this would, put a lot less, like, you can feel like you could expand your roster and like build different designs, and like the maps
Before there
were,
was like you would build one thing to handle
Yeah.
everything, and if you built something that was specialized, you were just kind of screwed if you're in a
Yeah,
situation
you're
where that
screwed.
didn't work out.
Yeah, because you didn't know the game mode, you didn't know the map. So now we've deferred the issue. It's kind of gone the complete opposite direction. It's like, now you know the map, you know the game mode, you know the rank, and you can have a lineup of specialized vehicles that could even specialize to the specific like generation that you happen to load into. So now it's really easy to make min-maxed vehicles, where that wasn't the case when we had back in the day when it was just a single vehicle, random map. You're just in a queue. War Thunder, basically. Think War Thunder queue. That's what we used to have. But like, or more specifically, World of Tanks, because War Thunder allows you to have multiple vehicles in your lineup. So we've been working on a kind of hybrid solution where you have a loadout of vehicles, and then that's what you queue up with. So you like pick 5 vehicles, and you have to specify the quantities, and these are like they have a max weight, they have a max cost, and
Like,
yeah,
you're building
so,
the logistics train that's sending you into battle, and when you
Yeah.
arrive, you have this many copies of any given vehicle, or
Yeah,
this many
a drop
vehicles.
squad.
Like, it's very
Yeah.
intentional.
Mech Warrior.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mech Warrior, if you will.
So now that we have that loadout, and you design that in the hub, the lobby, right, your garage, that's where you design it. And so you can have multiples, you can have these presets, but you need to queue up one of these into the matchmaker. And at this point, the matchmaker can actually look at that and be like, oh, okay. And it can actually attempt to balance the teams somewhat intelligently, aside, instead of just like completely letting it by the crow flies. And this will allow us to do a lot more, like, obviously a lot more deliberate game modes that are based on that concept. However, it does throw a little bit of a complication in the sense that it works good for short form game modes, which is like modes that are like 15-20 minutes, where like it's a single objective. It's a little bit harder to do on like a long form mode, which is like maybe hour-long matches, because it's relying on the idea that players can kind of join and leave at their heart's content. So if you could just leave the match, change your drops, your loadout, and then reload it in the same battle, it kind of seems, defeats the purpose, right?
And we can't just
So-
keep your position, because what if you leave and then
Yeah.
somebody replaces you, and then you rejoin the same team? What happens?
Yeah, or a different team. Maybe you rejoin on the opposing team, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the only slot that's open. So there's some issues there that we're trying to figure out. maybe we need to have the drop deck only works on the short form modes, and we need to figure something else out for the long form modes, which might just be the cost floor and like the reserve vehicle that somebody brought up. Like there were some solutions there that we were coming up with, but yeah, at the moment there's no matchmaker, there's no balancing of any kind going on in the battles right now. Even on the team side, even there's no deliberate action, which we probably could do fairly easily. I think it was talked about at the start of playtest 3 before like everything exploded in our face. Of like at least have the teams auto balance when players hot join, so like it will find, oh, this team is like down 2 players, I should probably make sure to put this new player coming in, make sure he goes on the opposing team. No, we'll put him on the same team and stack against the one poor guy. So, but yeah,
We're
there's
working on
some.
it's oncoming,
Yeah.
and we're really interested in correcting this issue that is very obvious. And you go, why don't you just have matchmaking? Well, we're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry, we're getting there. But we're gonna keep talking forever if we keep going on too long. I just wanted to touch on why it's not in and what we plan to do. None of that is quite implemented yet, but it is first and foremost in our mind after the game is like, okay, semi-functional in the sense of we can count on players being able to join. Right now, that's up to a question. So it's a little bit behind, but we're getting to it.
Was that a fucking
Okay.
train?
That was a fucking train. All right. It's
Okay,
time to close
that
out, guys. I'm
signals
gonna
the
get hit.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah, shoot. The train came by, and we're gonna be heading off.
All right.
Thank you also very much
you,
for
everyone.
watching. This will be available on YouTube as an upload later on, and might even do a write up on it, but don't quote me on that. We'll see if that works out.
All right. See you guys later.
See you around.
Toodles. That we close this
End
thing.
Q&A. How does that end event?
Press the button.